Good evening and welcome to Modern Day Debate. Tonight we're going to be debating, was the moon landing a hoax? And to start us out, we have Dustin. So Dustin, the floor is all yours and thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you so much for having me on. I am going to mention I sort of crammed for this particular moon landing topic at the last minute. I'm generally more into cosmology, so we will touch on some of that tonight. Hopefully, not go too much off topic. Anyway, with my intro, I'm Dustin Nemos, also called the Archivist. I've seen many things, things of good and evil, and have I got answers possibly to some of the deepest and most profound questions laid before mankind. You may choose to place the burden of proof on our shoulders tonight and say, why do you doubt the official science of world governments? But then I would reply, why do you believe it? This belief is fairly recent and completely hinges on unproven theories such as space. It's hard to believe the moon landing was real. What NASA is claiming is essentially that they have gone 1,000 times further than they can go today with 50-year-old technology on the first attempt, with 1/1,000,000th the computing power of what is in your modern cell phone. There's now clear evidence of NASA using numerous methods to mislead the public about astronauts being on the ISS and other space missions: air bubbles, wires, harnesses, green screens, virtual reality, strings, gravity, grabbing objects that are not even there, near drowning incidents, etc. Space is a satanic, secret society deception. The elite are ruled by a cult that worships the demigod Nephilim, or Anunnaki, lineage of the fallen angels of Genesis 6. They have created entire branches of false science around the Copernican revolution, the now thoroughly debunked theory that the world moves around the sun, which is why we're really here, in order to convince us that the world is a globular rock cannonball corkscrewing amidst infinite void, with infinite other globular rocks and dust shotgunning behind. A rock that is billions of years old, merry-go-rounding around a burning giant fart that itself shoots through space at incredible speeds without flinging us off through velocity or momentum, while maintaining absolute clockwork precision. And we can find lucky moments of absolute stillness without so much as a breeze. In truth, the demonstrably biblical Earth is young, stationary, geocentric, flat, hollow, and domed. And they are spending vast quantities of your tax dollars to make damn sure, pun intended, that you don't find out. NASA are liars, and the deep state science backing their theories are just as much based on scientific method as cigarettes for pregnant women. And may iron sharpen iron, and may the best arguments win. All glory to Yahweh. Jesus is King. I stand witness as a former devout, lifelong anti-God, anti-theist, atheist, who never lost a single debate with any theist in my life. That, as someone who tested biblical Earth, I converted to scientific fundamentalist Jesus freak instantly upon testing of various religious holy texts. Only the Hebrew Bible has 100% accurate, synchronized prophecies in fine detail by the hundreds or thousands of years apart every single time. I stand corrected and humbled eternally, having been a know-it-all before. And in my time, I have woken up tens of thousands of others to Christ and to Yahweh and to biblical Earth using the actual scientific method to prove biblical Earth precisely as God told us. I witness there is no more powerful tool in a modern Bible scholar's toolkit than biblical flat Earth and the seed war to wake people up to the truth of God, Yahweh, our creator, and who also wrote his name on every cell of our body. How am I doing on time?
So you still have 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but I would ask if we could just try
Perfect.
to hone in on the topic of tonight's debate. I know that this all ties together, and we'll get into that for the open discussion. But yeah, I'll put your timer back on and jump out here.
I thought this was just the intro. My bad. The moon's translucent. You can't land on it. Everything's flat. There's actually zero evidence for space. It's not CGI. It all has like sex written on the globe, marble, stuff like that. We can basically go down any rabbit hole you guys want to go to. That's my intro.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll end the screen share there. Pop back over to our main debate stage. Thank you so much, Dustin, for your introductory statement there. We're going to hand it over to Flatzoid. You have up to 6 minutes here to present your intro case.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to keep my screen up quickly. There we go. Is it showing?
Yes. So you are on a phone. I'll let our audience know that
Yeah.
Flatzoid had to switch to his phone. So if it's a little strange, I'm going to try to fix it up for you guys.
I don't know if I can share it. It doesn't work. Okay, it's gonna. Why the moon landings never happened? Well, I didn't really have time to set up a presentation. I just took one of my old ones I have done before. Obviously not on the other before, but it's just basic arguments that I hope we do get into that the Globers are going to be able to defend for the moon landings. Anyway, the first argument is arguments against the moon landings. According to the second law of thermodynamics, if the Earth is considered an open system, the air on Earth would seek to fill the available space presented to it. This is the second law of thermodynamics, and because of it, the moon landings would be violating this natural law because, as I said, the Earth would release all the air into the available system, and we would be dead, and we wouldn't be able to build the space rockets to go there. So again, if the Earth is considered a closed system because you need the gas to stay on Earth, it will not let the people leave the closed system, aka they cannot leave Earth to go through this closed barrier to get to the moon. So that would be an argument why the moon landing can't be real. Now, the other argument is, are the astronauts lying? The first one, what did the astronauts see? Let's take Donald Petit, for instance. This is based on the stars. Donald Petit claims to have seen stars, nebula, and so forth from space. And then we look at different ones where do their stories actually collaborate with each other? Arguments against the moon landing again, Mike Massimino also claims with Donald Petit to have seen the stars, nebula, and so forth coming from space. But let's move to the most famous, Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong claims it's pitch black, that you see no stars. How is it that Neil Armstrong sees no stars, but yet Mike Massimino and Don Petit are able to see stars and nebulas and everything, and they both claim to go to the same place? Or how about Buzz Aldrin? He claims space is just a deep black with a velvet sheen to it. Also not really collaborating with the others. Remember, Buzz and Neil went together, and yet they have different stories on what they saw. Or how about Chris Hadfield? Also claims space to be deep velvet with a velvet sheen to it. And Michael Collins, my favorite. He says he can't remember to see any stars. Later on, he writes a book where he says he did see stars. How do you not remember seeing stars or not? And then later says, no, you definitely saw stars. So the argument would be, why would they all contradict one another's observations if they really did go where they claim to go? Stars or no stars? Which ones is it? The next one would be the Van Allen radiation belts. They would have to have traveled through it if we had to beg the question of Narnia. And the Hasselblad cameras would have huge implications based on this. Films exposed, these are Apollo detectives did actual quote-unquote experiments trying to figure out what would happen in a vacuum and radiation with the film. And obviously it gave a lot of problems. It gave different hues, did exposure to radiation as it did and messed up everything. Films just showing that quickly, see how it changes the coloration and the color balances and the hues and everything. And then obviously, why aren't the astronauts able to just swear on the Bible to say they went there? Obviously, because they never. Then Gary Fong, if you haven't known, he's a well-accepted professional Hasselblad photographer. He also says it's impossible for the Hasselblad to have ever worked in that environment. The next argument is, how do you change a film in a dust environment? Now, remember, this dust is so fine, apparently, on the moon, that it gets in every crevice, even on the very tight-sealed astronaut suit. Why is it able not to get into the Hasselblad camera, which is really not as sealed as the suit? Okay, and then obviously the film in the vacuum, and that's basically about it. So how do we know we went to the moon? Simple. It violates natural law. They always contradict each other and themselves, and none of the equipment would even magically work if you did go to Narnia. And that's my presentation.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for your introductory statement, Flatzoid, and from our hoax side. So over to the not a hoax side, and I'm going to ask Grayson to go first. So Grayson, the floor is all yours.
We had worked it out for Ozien to go first, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I thought where Ozien got here, and Ozien's actually coming in with a little bit of he has a cold, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come on out. So Ozien, you volunteered to go first. I figured I'd put it on you, Grayson, to get some surface thoughts out there to maybe give Ozien a little break. But all right, Ozien, floor is yours, buddy.
Thank you. I just want to point out, like, there was a comment there that was very racist and disrespectful towards Jews, and I don't think we should have these type of discussions when we're talking about if we went to the moon or not. So let's avoid that going forward. Thank you very much. Today, we're diving into the persistent moon landing conspiracy theories which claim the U.S. government fabricated the Apollo moon landings in the 60s and 70s. Special thanks to Modern Day Debate, my debate partner, BasedTheory, and our opponents, Flatzoid and Dustin. I'm also hosting an after show on my channel with actually Ryan called Matters Now, so hopefully you can join us there after this is over. So it is impossible to cover all the details of this colossal endeavor in a mere 6 minutes. So I will go over the highlights and we can discuss them during the open discussion. Hopefully we don't turn this into a debate if gravity exists or not, or the shape of the earth, if it's hollow or domed or whatnot. And we can talk about if it's physically possible to go to the moon or not, and if we have historical documentations to support that. And by golly, we are still sending landers to the moon in 2023. So the level of incredulity required to deny it reaches absurd proportions. So we have gone back to the moon. To affirm a historical event, we must demonstrate it's physically possible and validate it with primary and secondary sources. Skeptics view the moon landing as a grand hoax, critiquing old film footage and questioning the physics of the flags and shadows and things like that, and apparently the testimony of witnesses. However, they often overlook the determination of President Kennedy, who committed to landing a man on the moon, a goal realized by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on July 20th, 1969. Humanity's journey to the moon is a marvel. NASA's Saturn V rocket, central to the Apollo missions, was a feat of engineering at 110 meters tall, equipped with a powerful F1 engine. Its launch and the subsequent stages were intricately planned. This involved orbiting Earth to properly align for the lunar journey, then meticulously maneuvering the command service module and lunar excursion module for the moon landing. Michael Collins, who was in the CSM, played a vital role orbiting close to the moon. And they couldn't see stars from the moon because of sunlight, because they're on the sun side of the moon. So the lunar module, essential for the moon surface landing, underwent extensive testing, ensuring its functionality. The descent to the moon was a carefully executed process, with the astronauts navigating to a safe landing spot on an uncharted surface, a true pioneering endeavor. The development of spacesuits by NASA was crucial for moon exploration. These suits were designed specifically for the moon's challenging environment, debunking the notion of them being mere fabrications. Actually, they created two types of suits, because the people that went to the moon's surface needed better suits than the one in the command service module. So instead of just making one, they made two. This design was sophisticated, capable of maintaining a 1/4 atmospheric pressure difference, equivalent to going below water 3 meters in the lunar vacuum, and safeguarding the astronauts from the dangers of space. Radiation protection during the Apollo missions was meticulously planned. The spacecraft's trajectory and shielding were designed to minimize exposure to radiation in the Van Allen belts. The astronauts' average radiation exposure was remarkably low, an average of 0.8 rad, about like an X-ray, reflecting the careful planning and execution of the mission. To protect the astronauts from radiation, the Apollo missions meticulously planned their trajectory to avoid as much of the Van Allen belts as possible and the charged particle radiation, and use shielding on the spacecraft to navigate the belts. Aluminum blocked the charged proton ionized radiation, while the insulation, like this plastic, corrugated plastic, I believe, countered the charged electron ionized radiation. These belts consist of charged particles of protons and electrons captured by the Earth's magnetic field and propelled by solar winds, not waves. If the hull had been made of lead, like some people said it should have been, The interaction between the charged particles and lead would have produced X-rays, which would have been dangerous to the astronauts. So that's why they didn't use lead. Comprehensive scientific evidence and expert analysis robustly dispute the moon landing hoax theory. The Apollo missions represented an extraordinary achievement in human history, a culmination of extensive research, experimentation, and innovation. The overwhelming evidence, including photos, videos, phone calls, scientific data, support this. The 2.5 seconds to send messages to the moon supports the speed of light. This evidence is further reinforced by firsthand accounts from astronauts, naval veterans, my former shipmates, well, not mine because I was in the Navy when they were, and records from scientists and engineers involved in the missions. This extensive documentation could withstand scrutiny in a court of law. The notion of a vast, enduring conspiracy to conceal such a monumental event is highly implausible. Accepting the moon landing as historical truth, corroborated by significant evidence and global lunar exploration efforts, is a logical conclusion. And I'll conclude it with that. Thank you.
A1, thank you for that, Ozien. Sorry for laughing. I can hear the parrot in the background, and yeah, I can't. Is a girl or a boy?
Mary, a girl.
Well, Mary's got a lot to say. So over to you, Grayson, for your up to 6 minute intro there. Thanks for being here.
All right, perfect. Yeah, my name is Grayson from the channel BasedTheory. I do debates on all kinds of pseudoscience topics all the time. Check it out. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the moon landing, whether or not it was fake. So my partner just kind of ran through the historical evidence. I'm going to be talking about, since most people that think that the moon landing was fake, they have a problem with NASA. They won't listen to anything that NASA says. So I'm going to be focusing on third-party independent sources that validate the moon landing that are not NASA. So first of all, let's just put our critical thinking caps on. Let's think rationally about this, right? What was the context for the moon landing? Well, we were in the middle of a Cold War with the USSR, both of which were vying for various realms of influence throughout the world. So it was in the geopolitical interest of the USSR. If America faked the moon landing, they would have had the technology and the budgets to verify that and provide evidence that that happened, and it would have been in their geopolitical interest to do so. They would be shouting it from the rooftops. They would be trying to expose America for having done what would have been the most elaborate hoax of all time. I mean, this would be truly a remarkable endeavor if the U.S. had been able to pull off such fakery. And the USSR, through signal tracing, radio telescopes, there are so many different ways that they could have provided evidence that this was faked if it had been faked. The fact that we have not a single nation on Earth has ever came out and said that the moon landing was fake. Not just the USSR, but China, India, Japan, North Korea, Iran, any enemies of America that would benefit geopolitically by exposing the US as having faked such a thing, none of them are saying anything. So you basically have to bite the bullet and say, if the moon landing was fake, so was the Cold War, and so are the illusions of different governments, which I have a feeling that both of our opponents here tonight will probably bite that bullet and say that really all the countries are just fake. They're all in cahoots together. They're all trying to fake space and fake the shape of the Earth and blah, 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 blah. But for normal people with critical thinking skills, I don't think that that's a bullet that many people would be willing to bite, that the Cold War was just fake and that really the US and the Soviet Union were working together the whole time and there was no animosity. So with that, I would just like to share my screen very briefly and just go through this PowerPoint here. So was the moon landing fake? First of all, here is a published paper from the USSR in 1978 where they used a radio telescope to actually bounce signals off of the scientific equipment that was left behind by the astronauts of the Apollo program. This was published within the Soviet Union just for internal consumption within the Soviet Union. So again, they'd have to be in cahoots.
Just one second there, Grayson. I have to zoom out your screen share just because we had to zoom in so much for the phone share.
Okay.
There we go. All right, carry on.
Okay, so that was a Soviet paper. Here we go. Here's an amateur third party. This is a guy from Kentucky, right? This is on the week of the moon landing in July 1969. This guy, Larry Basinger from Louisville, Kentucky, they wrote about it in the Louisville Courier, the local newspaper, about how he was able to point his little device that he had made to measure this, and he was able to point it directly at the moon and intercept the exact same transmissions that was playing on everybody's TV. And he was disappointed that they were the same, and he didn't get to pick up any juicy bits that they had edited out. It was the exact same, according to Basinger, who's an amateur who did this. There's also this guy, Sven Graham, who did pretty much the same thing for the Apollo 17, the last mission to the moon that was manned. And you can see here his data there on the left on the sheets that he was filling out in 1972. And you can see that plotting here, the Apollo 17 Doppler analysis showing that it matches the Doppler, what it should be for the moon's surface. But this wasn't just done back in the day. Here we go. This is just from a couple months ago, doing the same kind of analysis, a Doppler analysis on the most recent Chandrayaan-3 mission to the moon. This guy, Scott Tilley, who's an amateur astronomer, did this himself with his own equipment. He has a blog here, like Riddles in the Sky, where he breaks down exactly how he did this analysis, all the equipment that he used, so you can do it too. And right here, he has his data doing a Doppler analysis, exactly matches what it should be if that signal was coming from the moon. So this is pretty much proof beyond a shadow of reasonable doubt. But if you wanted a final nail in the coffin, here is a retroreflector that the Apollo astronauts left on the moon, and scientists today can shoot a powerful laser at it, precisely targeted at it within a centimeter accuracy. And you can see that it's called lunar laser ranging. It's still done to this day in observatories all over the world, not just in the US, but in China, in Russia, in France. There's observatories all over the place. They routinely do these lunar laser ranging measurements, and they literally hit these devices. And you know that they have to be hitting these devices because the signal that they get back from them is not just from hitting the moon's surface. That's called an EME. And the type of signal that you get from hitting specifically these retroreflectors is completely different and cannot be replicated without this specific piece of technology physically being on the moon, left behind by the astronauts. And with that, I will end my presentation.
All right. Thank you so much for your opening statements, everybody. Oh, now I got to fix this screen. Look at that. See? Everything just wants to have fun. All right, so that was our introductory statements, everybody. We're going to go into an open discussion. Just want to remind everybody hanging out in the live chat to hit the like button, share this out in those spaces that you like having these discussions. We are a neutral platform. We host debates on science, politics, and religion. We hope everybody feels welcome in this space. Let me turn up my preamp a little bit because that's not going to be important in 2 seconds. So we're going to go into open discussion, and thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Let's kick it over to you, Dustin Flatzoid, to respond to some of what you just heard.
Do you want to start off, Dustin?
I could address things like radiation shielding and light angles blocking stars and gravity. And if you want me to go first, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, first, to rebut in order, Ozien. First, I'm not racist. I just want to say that I'm married to a Chinese lady. I have 3 wonderful mixed babies, Mongols. I simply speak to those behind the lie, just like those behind the jab, just like also incidentally those behind Soviet Russia.
You didn't just say jab, though. You said something that could be racially offensive. Yes.
Oh. Also behind Soviet Russia and Rome's learning.
Dude, I'm not going to deal with this shit.
Like,
keep it off the topics of racist shit. Come on.
Let's go back to the moon.
Same people behind the fake globe. And incidentally, I mean, it's.
Well, let's go to radiation. Relevant. What do you think the radiation is that the experience in the Van Allen belts?
Okay, so the radiation, as I understand it, and I'll pull up my article here. Got to get back to it. If you just look at the thing, like if you actually look at
I know what it looks like.
The moon lander, and I'll pull up an image for people to see.
What's the type of radiation? Do you know it? It's charged particle radiation, right? It's not a wave.
I'll get to a quote from like BBC or history.com or whatever in a second. I just want people to look at this and just very carefully look at what we should assume is radiation shielding, and this stuff is basically paper thin and buckling everywhere. it's flimsy and fake. It basically looks like paper mache and tinfoil. There's also, incidentally, there's no exhaust burn hole or crater. There's no windows. There's no stars, and we'll get to the stars in a second. Okay. Now, in terms of radiation, the Van Allen radiation belts, according to BBC, quote, some people don't believe in the space shuttle and the missions to the moon because they think the journey itself was impossible because of something called the Van Allen radiation belts. The Van Allen belts are huge belts of radiation that surround the Earth, yada, yada. Get to the end here. Radiation sickness occurs when you have been exposed to around 200 to 1,000 rads of radiation within a few hours. They claim that NASA made sure that the spacecraft was well insulated, so actually the average dose of radiation over the 12-day mission was similar to a chest X-ray.
Yes.
0.18 rads. So
The
again, just go
average
back,
exposure between all the missions was 0.8 rads.
look at that leaky piece of that leaky bucket full of holes, and go back and assume that
But you understand that the
that's
radiation
shielding. It's not effective. It's busted. They would have died.
The radiation wasn't waves; it was charged particles, right? So waves are reproduced.
Well, the shielding was busted. Is the point?
The shielding was aluminum, and they had insulation in the aircraft. So the insulation. Oh, what did I say? So there's electron charged particles and proton charged particles. The aluminum blocks, if it had been made of lead, it would actually produce X-rays. So they're not rays, so they don't pass through the material. The particles have to be will interact with that material. And most of those particles
if the shielding,
get blocked.
you're saying that if the shielding is busted, it would still work.
The shielding's not busted. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no busted shielding.
I can zoom back in. But anyway, in answer to the light angle question, your argument, and basically history.com's argument, is essentially that the light of the sun is blocking the dimmer lights behind it. And this
can you go out during noon? When you go out there during noontime, can you see the stars?
Often, yes, to various degrees.
Okay.
Depending on where you're at.
So
yes.
Most people would say, no, you
fact,
can't see the stars.
And in fact, well, it depends on where you are and the time of year. In fact, you can see the moon that time of day sometimes. Yes. In point of fact, you can see various angles in a country setting with light at various settings right here. You can always, to some degree, see, even with light in your face or light all over the soil, much more than you might see in the moonlander setting, which is what we're sort of comparing to here. The moonlander's light was at a very, very deep, even.
It was brighter.
Basically.
You understand the sunlight was brighter to people on the moon than it would be to somebody here on Earth, right?
But where's the stars when it's actually much less bright than the pictures I just showed you? Where
Wait,
they're
no,
bright.
that's the sunlight is brighter there than it is to us on the Earth.
But first of all, they're not looking at the sun. Secondly, we also just saw where the light was brighter on
the side of the
Earth.
moon facing the sun. The sun is above them.
And the camera's facing away from the sun.
Okay,
yes.
but
so there's no real reason to not see the stars.
Yeah, let's let Flatzoid in here, guys. So we're kind of taking up all the.
I just want to ask Ozien a question though. Based on atmosphere, does it make light brighter
Let's end
or
the screen
dimmer?
share there.
It will occlude part of the light. The atmosphere will.
So it magnifies it. It just refracts it. In other words, it still magnifies it. So it would
doesn't
be
magnify
less bright.
it. It would be less bright. Yeah.
So why is it brighter than if there's apparently no atmosphere?
More of the lumens get to you. So more of the light gets to you. It's not blocked and scattered by the atmosphere as it comes to you.
Okay. But anyway, I just want to ask, because I wanted to find out. Now, you guys were saying that the paper mache is able to block this radiation and things.
Aluminum.
Is the radiation coming from all angles when they're moving through the radiation belt, or is it just coming at one angle?
They're charged particles. I'm not sure how they're moving around. But
It's looping. So it's looping within the Earth's magnetic field. Like the charged particles are moving in a loop.
Yeah.
And did they have this
to help them out? It's shaped somewhat like a figure eight.
Yeah, and did they have this cocoon of, as you guys put it, protection right around them, or just on panels?
I'm not. Yeah, the whole ship. Their module was shielded. where the people were shielded from the charged particle radiation, right? So they weren't radiation waves. You understand the difference, right?
So
They were
this is kind of
Doesn't make a difference.
this
Yes,
is
it
kind of
does.
Waves
similar.
or particles doesn't make a difference.
It
Okay,
does.
this is kind of similar for most all of Flatzoid's criticisms, other than the stars thing, was that he just doesn't think that the engineers were good enough. Like he thinks that
I didn't even bring up stars now. This is a total non sequitur. We're
I'm
talking
not
about the
bringing up
radiation
stars, man.
and the
I'm
shielding.
paying attention to what I'm actually saying here. What I'm saying is, and Ryan, can you not share the screen for a second while I'm talking? But
yeah,
No,
can
he's
we,
making my point with his share screen.
well, can we
He's making my point there.
can we stop
I
the
know
share
I'm
screen
making
while
a point right now. I haven't made one point so far. I'm
Yeah.
trying to make a point if I could be allowed to make that point.
let's
Please.
end the
My
screen
point
share, you
is-
guys. Don't mind.
Yeah, like nobody can see us talk whenever the screen shares. It's just all on the screen. Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
My point has been that all of Flatzoid's criticisms, besides the stars thing, notice I'm not talking about that Flatzoid. Beside the stars thing, all of the points have just been that the engineering's not good enough. This is what he talked about with the camera. They couldn't engineer the camera to be protected from radiation. They couldn't engineer the film to like keep the dust away. They couldn't engineer like the module to protect the astronauts from
Regular.
radiation. All of his criticisms are just that they couldn't have possibly engineered that because he doesn't
Okay,
provide.
can
them.
you show me?
That
Can you
because
show me
the-
the shielding on the camera?
He says that because the camera that they used was apparently just a commercial camera, and all of the experience he shows are just the commercial brand
Never
of
said that.
camera.
The camera was inside the module. The module is shielded. There's no like radiation on the surface of the moon. Well, there's solar radiation. You get some from the sun, but it'd be like having walking down the street with a camera. If you leave it on the sunlight for too long, it can, I believe, mess up the film eventually, but that would take a long time.
Okay, and on the moon, do you have any of the protection from the atmosphere, from the gamma rays coming from the sun?
Well, primarily the protection would be from the magnetic field, which you wouldn't have that on the moon. I get it. There's more radiation on the moon's surface. That's why they had to take proper precautions in their engineering. And I don't see why
And
you're
can you
claiming that it's
explain what-
impossible to engineer for that.
Would you explain how they took precautions for that, please?
Just the
do you
casing
think
of
that
the
they did it?
device. The casing of the device provides enough shielding. I don't see how that's a big
Did you
deal.
see what the Hasselblad is made out of?
At some point, I want to address or rebut Grayson. Just when you
Yeah,
guys have
yeah.
a second.
Last point there, and then we'll pick it over to you, Dustin.
Okay, yeah. I just want to know the composition of what the Hasselblad camera is made out of. Can you show anywhere there where it is shielded from the gamma rays from the sun and keeping the dust out and changing the lenses would be impossible due to that fine particle.
Gamma radiation?
You know
You
how
mean
film camera
UV
works?
radiations?
Just one
What
second there.
you mean UV?
If you know how a film camera works, it would be impossible to be able to change the film in
You
that
said gamma
environment.
radiation
One second,
from the
Ozien.
sun.
We got to let him wrap up his question there, and then you definitely. I'll give you a chance to respond, but yeah, let's wrap up your question there, Flatzoid, because Dustin's been waiting.
Okay, yeah. Just want to say, it would be impossible due to the mechanics of the camera, because it was a film camera, to be able to take the film out, stick a new cartridge in, and not have the dust everywhere and the vacuum causing the issues with the film and because of the radiation thanks to the sun.
I do want to address that, but I don't know if we're going to Dustin or what.
If you can do that in like 10 seconds.
Yeah,
and then we'll
okay.
carry on.
So the camera that they used was not just an off-the-shelf Hasselblad camera. I mean, all your experiments were just off-the-shelves, commercially available cameras. It was modified by NASA. It's not just a commercial camera. And to prevent it from dust, first of all, dust doesn't just flitter around on the moon's surface, right? There's very little atmosphere. It just falls back down. It's not floating around on little like air currents like it does here on Earth.
All
So you don't. Again, that addresses it.
All right, thank you.
You don't
guys.
need any more protection from the
All right.
radiation than you do on the
Hey,
Earth.
come on,
Hold on,
Ozien.
fellas. We gotta hand it back over to Dustin, give him a chance to ask his question, and I think what you just said will spur more conversation. I don't think Flatzoid's gonna forget what you just said. So over to you, Dustin.
I don't want to spend too much time on gravity itself, but even Newton did not believe in gravity, and he actually thought it was so great an absurdity that nobody would believe it who had basically a thinking mind. The quote is here. Quickly to rebut all governments being in on it. Well, they are literally. There's an Antarctic Treaty, which is where they started to all get in on it. But it really, it really came before that. because this is a 500-year-old lie and goes back to Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, and these other seancists. And it goes back to learning against learning, which is Cardinal Wolsey's strategy, which is papal approved, to create fake science and flood the world with it in response to people reading the Bible for the first time for themselves, which was basically what we call the Reformation. It's not perfect, but this is history. Rome failed to overthrow the Reformation with a military fleet, with Spain invading the UK, and basically people started to read the Bible and break away from Rome, and they wanted to break faith in the Bible using fake science in order to reclaim and maintain their power and world dominance. And that's where we get fake science. That's where we get evolution. That's where we get the heliocentric model, the globe Earth, all of it. And in terms of documents, we have tons of documents. We have CIA, Russia, NASA, US Army documents, all referring to a motionless flat Earth as the foundation of their science to make it work.
We talk about gravity, like we're covering lots of topics.
And you mentioned an experiment that people could do also. I think Grayson mentioned one experiment that anyone can actually do is just moon presents cold light, test the shadows at night versus the light at night. The shadows are actually warmer than the cold light of the moon, which proves it's not reflecting sunlight. It is its own light.
I'd like to address that.
Proven by lunar eclipses where the sun is still visible, in fact. So
all right.
I don't mind. I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about while you address it, please.
Yeah,
let's-
okay.
All right, let's
Can we
end
go
the
over
screen share,
gravity
and then
first?
we'll come back to it in a second.
First,
I want to address the cold moonlight if I can.
yeah, we should cover both.
Okay, just
All
on
right.
the thing of the cold moonlight, it's pretty
Thank you.
easily debunked that it's literally just that you're near things that reflect thermal radiation. If you get away from things, like if you were to cast like shade from the moon very, very far away from like where you wouldn't have any kind of thermal radiation like being reflected, then you wouldn't observe that effect. And if you just want to make extra certain, do this yourself, Justin. Measure this on a full moon, look at the shade versus not shade of moonlight, measure the difference, and then come back on a new moon at the exact same locations, mark exactly where you made those measurements, and you will find the same difference on a new moon with no moonlight. So there you go.
You can do it in a parking lot where there's nothing nearby that would maintain a difference in thermal mass, and it would be pretty much
How would you get this
even.
shadow? Where would the shadow come from?
You'd have to bring your own shadow in order to test the theory.
And
Which
there you
proves-
go.
Use
That's
an umbrella.
using the
There you go.
thermal.
Yeah.
You can use an umbrella, you're going to get the same effect.
It's got to be like literally 20, 30 feet away. Are you going to do that? Do it with that, and then
That
you will
doesn't-
see what
An
the
umbrella
result
would
is.
work. If you hold an umbrella, it would work.
Well, you're standing
You can
next to
literally
it
hold
too.
it. You can
radiation.
hold.
Alright.
You can measure it, and then while you're measuring it, stick the umbrella in front of it and see a difference.
Like a
Yeah,
beach
because
style.
you're bringing it in. It's reflecting thermal radiation. The umbrella is too close.
So
to
it's
your
not.
All right, just
apparatus.
one
So you're
second,
saying
guys.
it's
We
not
gotta let
re-
Grayson have a
reflecting
chance to
thermal-
respond. Just one second,
All right.
Flatzoid. You cut
I'm
him off right
telling
in the
you.
middle of a sentence.
Redo this on a new moon with the exact same setup, you will get the same results. It's because it's bouncing back thermal radiation from your little umbrella or whatever you're using to create the shade. It's pretty obvious. It's been done where they've cast shade with something that's like 30 feet away and you don't measure any difference. There's no such thing as cold moonlight.
Okay, can I just say something about that? So you're saying it only gives off radiation when you got shade there.
No.
So then
Really,
what's going
what
to
I
make a
just
difference
said was
with
the
the shade
complete
or not?
opposite of that. Flatzoid, what I just said was the complete opposite. So I don't know how you got what I was saying was literally the opposite of what I said.
Because the radiation, you understand, comes from the ground up.
Yeah, thermal radiation can be reflected by large objects that are casting shade. Yeah.
So,
that's why
if I
you want to make
if
the
I measure
shade.
All right, we
something,
gotta let him
if
respond
I
there,
measure the
Grayson.
radiation, the temperature, and I stick something in the way that the light change and it changes the temperature,
Yeah.
you're saying it still radiates the same or different?
No, I'm saying that what you've stuck in the way is literally reflecting thermal radiation causing to heat up. What you need to do is cast that shade from way far away so that there's no chance that it can reflect thermal radiation, which I've never seen a
But
flat
you-
earth do.
The thermal radiation comes down up, dude. It bounces down from the ground upwards. If you're sticking something in the way, that's not going to cause you from getting a different reading.
What you've stuck in the way is bouncing that thermal radiation back. Okay, you can radiate thermal radiation in
You know
360 degrees.
You know how the thermometer works. It points that way. It doesn't pick up behind it.
What are you talking about, dude?
It heats up the air.
Directionality.
As
That's
the
your
radiation
downfall,
reflects
directionality.
back down, it's going to heat up that air below.
I don't
But
see
we
what y'all
anyway,
are
we anyway
so
off the topic
against.
of moon. I want to. Can I get back to quickly the Hasselbeck camera?
No, I want to
never
go
ever
back
said
to the
anything about-
statement about Isaac Newton that was false. So we covered something that was false about Sir Isaac Newton. So before
Address
we move
it.
on.
Yeah. That's
Okay,
fine.
so
Let's carry on.
So Sir Isaac Newton believed gravity was true. He just thought there was some supernatural force that was causing that interaction. And then other people thought it was some type of ether, whatever, that was causing that, allowing that attraction to happen through some type of medium. So he believed gravity was true. He just thought it was some type of supernatural force.
No, do you know who C.V. Boyers is?
CB,
Oh.
no.
He's the one that introduced Newtonian gravity after Newton died, because Newton did
Okay.
did not want to be ascribed to it.
All right,
It
sure.
says right here he believes in gravity. He just thought it was immaterial.
He also wrote like
thought it
thousands,
absurd.
maybe hundreds of thousands of pages on alchemy, and I'm pretty sure he died drinking mercury.
Well,
Yep.
that's all true. It doesn't invalidate anything that he said about gravity.
He says
Well,
gravity.
it goes to motive
He
and
says
agenda,
right here. No, it
which I'd
says
love
right
to
here.
talk to.
He says gravity must be caused by an agent acting constantly according to certain laws. So he thought gravity was true. He just thought it was caused by an agent. That's what he's saying in your own quote.
But
you
they can't
posted.
show an agent. They cannot demonstrate an agent.
That's fine.
It's
but
an
he still
invisible
believed
power
gravity,
that
he
is
still
sort of a
believed
god
gravity
to
was real. So he still
float
believed
people.
gravity was real. He just thought it was caused by an agent.
Well, he admitted
No.
here that you have to have an agent to have gravity, and there's no such agent. It's a debunked theory, and he did not want it published until
We-
after his death for a reason.
Can we quit
Yeah,
the screen?
you see
share
the
now?
thing is,
Okay.
you see the thing is, he
I was just
knew
gonna say,
because he,
gravity's not a
Sorry.
debunked theory at all.
okay. First of all, you would agree F equals ma holds true.
In certain non-relativistic like settings,
No, if you always require force or mass to accelerate, that
you
is
can
natural.
also
law.
F equals ma does not hold true for light. You need to use a different formula. So no.
What is
Yeah,
light?
just like a
always
minute or
the
two.
same.
What is light?
Are we really getting into a debate about what is light, Flatzoid? This is supposed to be about the moon.
You're saying F equals ma doesn't work with light, so what is
Yeah,
light?
it's
then?
it's an excitation of the electromagnetic field that's quantized. Who
Uh,
cares? We're on the moon landing subject right now.
There's
Yeah,
a
but
there's a foundation of false science that can all be picked apart, such as gravity, heliocentrism, movement curve. We could go a lot of ways, and it's all built on sand, I think is the point. I would like 1 minute at some point to address some of the things we talked about, like gravity.
Sure, if you want to go ahead
Yeah.
right now and expound some ideas, but if you wanted to get into, I think you had mentioned before we started, there was some
Camera.
historical stuff that you wanted to talk about as well.
Yeah,
I said
there's an
there's the
agenda.
Canadian coming out.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
There is an agenda behind it, and this occult overlay to Newton is not a one-over. It's pretty much the theme. It's the pattern. Rome has a bunch of occult seancists that are inventing her so-called science, and actually comes from things like Hermes' emerald tablets, which he was obsessed with and translated. He actually read in there, quote, it's talking about the sun here. Its force is above all force, for it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. It's just paganism, trying to replace what had been understood by every other religion on earth, including the Christian religion, to be a flat, central, geocentric, not moving,
All right.
young Earth.
I am going to ask us to pull it back in and try to focus on the moon landing, because I know we are getting a little sidetracked on some of the other topics that we do discuss on Modern Day Debate, and we'll certainly arrange those debates in the future if you guys are interested. But for now,
Awesome.
let's try to focus on what happened in the 60s and all the things that were surrounding that. So if you guys can, let's try to focus. Flatzoid, over to you.
Okay, yeah. So, would you guys say you'll be able to demonstrate us your moon landings violating the second law of thermodynamics?
It doesn't.
It does. What's the second law of
What's-
thermodynamics?
That entropy increases in an isolated
Yes.
system.
The universe is an isolated system. There's other systems inside the isolated system.
We don't know.
It's an
if the
open system, and
universe-
closed system is part of thermodynamics.
we
But
don't
it's
Earth
know.
not
is-
the second law.
We don't know if the
Yeah.
universe is a closed system. We just treat it as one. But
An isolated
Yeah.
system
Yeah.
is an isolated system is just a hypothetical. You do not actually have an isolated system in reality.
Yeah, and the
Now-
second law,
Okay.
guess what? Only applies to an isolated system. Thanks for
False.
debunking yourself, Flatzoid.
False. Go look. I can show you citations from MIT, from every university in reality that shows every single system uses thermodynamics.
All right, I've taken thermodynamics. The first thing you learn about the second law is that it only applies to isolated systems.
Okay, what about Joule's expansion of free gas? Do you know what that is?
It's not on the topic.
Makes it more of a rule.
Oh,
right?
you just said you studied thermodynamics.
Yeah,
Joule's
it's
expansion
not
of free expansion
on
of gas
the
is part of
topic,
thermodynamics.
We're supposed to be talking about the moon landing. You're trying
Yeah,
to
which
change
debunks the
the
moon
subject.
landing because you cannot listen. This debunks the moon landing because it's in Narnia that violates the second law of thermodynamics. It
Moon landing's not
violates
in
natural
Narnia.
law.
It's
It
magical
doesn't
science.
violate. It actually supports it. It explains why we have a gas pressure gradient as we go up in elevation.
Scientism.
That's delta X, yeah. Sorry. I just want to say, do you know what delta X is?
Change in position.
Great. So gas pressure gradient comes after gas pressure, which first requires containment. You're already
But when
hopping to...
No, why does
We-
gas pressure? If you got a tank, if you got a tank, can you measure the gas pressure difference from the top and the bottom of the tank? Can you measure it?
What's the
actually
size of
measure
the
it?
tank?
Let's say it's 4 feet tall. Is it enough of a right? You probably can't.
You
because
understand? You already literally made a point. A tank,
You
a
probably
container.
can't. Okay, but can you measure the gas pressure difference on Earth as you go up in elevation?
I wanted to bring that point up, is that if you actually graph the atmospheric pressure as you go up in altitude, it gets closer and closer to zero asymptotically. So when you're at space, it's not like you have this huge pressure differential. It's gradual. I mean, you guys would have the burden of proof. If you say that it stops at some point, you would have the burden of proof to demonstrate that it does terminate and does not just continuously asymptotically approach zero, which is
Again, pressure gradients come after having the gas pressure, which is really needed the antecedent of containment. So you hopping to pressure gradients shows you don't understand.
this shit?
Gravity is the containment. That's what contains the atmosphere on the Earth is gravity.
Why do we got a screen share about fucking opioids, aluminum?
Because they don't follow the scientific method, and less than 1% of actual scientific journals actually use the scientific method.
I
That
will
is
ask that
published
this
fact.
is the last
So it
screen
goes to
share, just 'cause
credibility.
we've had a lot
Yeah,
of screen sharing.
98% of statistics.
I don't get to talk much. I'm just trying to contribute, but basically it goes to credibility of the so-called science, which most governments agree on most of this other bullshit here as well, or did at one point. So I mean, it's all lies. It's all lies to your detriment.
Okay, I'm not.
It's all lies by a liar.
To do debates about tobacco, mercury, opioids, aluminum, talcum. So you're just gish galloping. Can we please stay on topic? So the debate is
But
about
the credibility of
was
world
true.
science.
If
your
you'll notice-
credibility is being harmed by not staying to the topic you agreed to. So we're
If
talking
you'll
about
notice-
your credibility, Dustin.
If
you
you'll
say so.
notice, in my opening, I cited things from non-scientists, from amateurs that had done this themselves and verified for themselves that the moon landing happened. So that didn't involve any scientist. That was amateurs doing this for themselves. And you could too, if you had the will to get this equipment, set it up for yourself, and learn how to do it.
All right, I'm
We
going to
did
inject a
it
wild
with
card,
my
guys.
experiment.
Guys, I don't want to
Just
put you
use
on
a
mute.
thermometer
I don't want to
for
put you
mine.
guys on mute. Just 1 second. I'm going to ask us to do something wild. Let's go back to 1969, Apollo 11. Like I said, let's try to focus on that mission and what exactly was going on with that. Just like I said, try to focus this in a little bit more because we are getting a little bit out here when we should be here.
Can I give a minute toward? Can I actually answer why they did it for just like a minute?
Sure, if it's
I would-
about that topic, that'd be great. Yeah, let's try to get
The
into
agenda
it.
was to sell the whole cosmology to the masses so that they would fall away from scripture, from the faith. It's actually called the Great Apostasy and Prophecy. I'm sorry, wrong one. I need to find this particular one here. Anyway, the point is that scientism right here. Rome, as I mentioned earlier, was basically at war, and they introduced learning against learning, Cardinal Wolsey. And these guys were all into the occult. And that's when we get into all of these so-called scientists, which are seancists, including Copernicus, including Galileo, who was a psyop. He supposedly was a heretic, but real heretics were burnt at the stake with their Bible tied around their neck for daring to read or translate it. They weren't given comfortable retirements. And all of their math is filled with 666s everywhere. It's just nonsense.
House
Hocus
arrest
pocus.
is comfortable retirement. Okay.
You're gish
Yes.
galloping. Who cares if Galileo was part of the CIA?
Moon landing.
Well, they
But
faked
that
it
is
to make you
that
not
is
believe in
comfortable
God.
retirement. If you
These are-
consider it, you would be burnt at the stake.
Most Christians,
Without these
most
5 or 6
Christians
people,
believe in the
nobody
moon
would believe in
landing.
this. These are the
Most
6 or so
Christians-
people who sold it to us.
Most Christians believe in the moon landing. So you're just saying they're not true Christians?
Right.
They're not reading the Bible. No.
Oh, so they're
Mhm.
not true Christians.
But
Wow.
God says the
But that's
Bible is
another-
flat.
So listen
the
to
world is
this.
flat.
All the Christians
that's another-
there,
God
if
says
you
the world is
believe
flat.
we went to the moon landing, he thinks you're a fake
Right.
Christian.
I just think
Right.
you're
That's
not
what
reading
he's
the Bible.
saying. He's saying
But
you don't
that's-
You're a Jew, aren't
understand it
you?
well enough.
You're a Jew,
You're
aren't
not
you?
educated well
Wow.
enough.
Oh, he's acting like one.
I'm what? Oh, so you're being racist again? You're being
It's a
racist
fact.
again.
It's
You're
a,
being
it's-
racist again.
Wow.
It is a
Yeah.
fact of science. Just want to defend myself.
Okay.
I would be
I
a
wanted- I just
proud
wanted to defend
Jew.
myself.
I'm a proud
I was
Jew,
on
even
mute.
though I'm not.
Yes,
Stop it.
everybody.
Stop it, y'all.
That is
two.
what we are
Just
doing. We're
shut
gonna
up
get
about
focused.
the J word. Seriously,
Yeah.
shut up. We're trying to stay on subject. You want to talk about retroreflectors?
Can I finish? Okay. So anyway, yeah, I would like to have that flat Earth Bible debate with Dustin sometime again, someone. But for now, I'm still on the Hasselblad camera and still on gas pressure and still on the dust on the camera. First of all, like he's saying, their credibility is shot, so you can't accept that. I'm saying you don't have gas pressure out containment, so that's a shot. The Hasselblad would not work there. That is shot. The LM, we can even go on to that. Do you know how much times they tested the LM on Earth? Did they get it successfully to work once on Earth?
The landing module? I'm not familiar with the story
No.
of the landing module. They did
Never once.
They have successfully landed what 6 or 7 of them now, at least on the moon. Like just the
That's
last
my
year,
point.
they've landed them
My point.
on the moon. Your point is they're landing them on the moon in 2023. That's your
No,
point,
no,
right?
no. My point is,
My
Good point.
point is
Sorry.
that the retroreflectors.
I was still
No.
talking, Grayson. We're on a
Yeah.
topic here, Grayson.
I know, and I'm saying
The
that
LM,
I
not the
am addressing
retroreflectors,
what you
the
said.
LM.
Flatzoid. Just let me finish talking here. Okay, the retroreflectors
you-
show that
Sorry,
the mission
Moderator, he's
was.
taking away from my argument here
I'm
for
not,
retroreflectors.
dude. I'm
We're talking
trying
about
to
the LM.
address it. Let me finish the
We're
sentence.
talking about the LM, not retroreflectors.
Yeah, it's
I know. I'm talking about that too.
my-
If you let me finish my sentence,
my
you'll
question-
see.
I was
Are
still
you gonna let
talking
me?
to Ozien about the
well, the
LM, dude.
LM was designed for the gravity of the moon too. So go ahead.
No, listen. They tested it on Earth. Not once did they get it right. The first time they got it right was on the moon.
Yeah.
Do you know how absurd that is? You don't even get people to be a pilot on a helicopter if they aren't able to land once.
I think they
Flatzoid, you're saying-
had simulated
Can I talk,
modules. They had simulated
Can I talk?
modules.
Okay, so you're saying that they for their lander that was designed to work in 1/6 Earth gravity, that they weren't able to successfully do a test in 6 times the gravity it was designed to land in? Wow, shocker. The fact is that we can test the retroreflectors on the moon, and that tells us that the mission happened.
Again, retroreflectors is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the lunar module now. Retroreflectors has nothing to do with the lunar module.
They use a
Okay.
training vehicle. So let me share a screen of the training vehicle.
Do you know how they try to replicate 1/6 gravity on the lunar module on Earth?
But in water,
No.
then how would you do that?
They used rocketry and they used suspended cables, and they still couldn't get it right because it's just too unstable. Now you want to tell me they aren't able to get it once correct on Earth, but they can go to space, which violates the second law of thermodynamics, and land a lunar rocket perfectly the first time without any problems.
And we know
There.
that they did that because the retroreflectors are there. We can verify that.
The Russians were able to reflect things off the moon before they even went to the moon.
There's the
Oh.
practice lunar module. That's what they practice with on Earth.
I want to
Yeah,
address
Yeah, and did they
feed.
get it
Just said-
correct? Did they get
I
it
want
right?
to address the point that he just said that they were
Yes.
able to reflect things off the moon. There is a difference. One is an EME, an Earth Moon Earth transmission. It is a totally different temporal signature than an LLR, which has to go through the retro reflector. Okay, these signals are meaningfully different.
And what's the difference between the two?
Again, their temporal spread is completely different.
What's
Like,
temporal
an
spread?
amateur can bounce a signal off of the moon itself, like off of the regolith of the moon surface. An amateur can do an EME, but an amateur cannot do an LLR because of the amount of precision and the power of the laser that it takes. They're different
I'm still
signals.
waiting. What is a temporal difference? I want to know what that is. I don't.
The temporal
understand.
spread is like basically if you have a really long spread out signal versus a very short, very exact signal that's like maybe 1 to
So
10.
the wavelength. So the wavelength, the
It's
width
like
of the wavelength.
The time spread of the signal.
So is it the wavelength that changes or the time it takes to travel?
The time it takes to like the time that you are receiving the signal, like you're receiving it for a few seconds versus like a few microseconds. Like
Okay.
the actual signature of the signal is different. Like the Fourier transforms give like a different breakdown.
Relevant to
transform.
modern training modules, what you guys are talking about, training modules. I just wanted to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, even today, I mean, even recently, the 1960s, the flight director admitted that they had such good simulation technology that no one could tell the difference, even the pilots. So when we're talking about the so-called like simulation and technology they use to train with, I mean, this includes stuff that they can't tell the difference between the real and the fake anyway.
But how can you fake the retro reflectors?
Again, he's talking about the LM.
I think the astronauts would be able to tell that they were on the moon. So
They would.
Yeah.
And that's why they got caught in so many lies and conflicting stories.
Well, they didn't lie. So that's the claim
really?
that
Then
you
who
made.
told the
lie.
truth?
I
Because
supposedly
they
you
can't all
can
be
read
telling
their
the truth.
supposedly you can read their mind. No, you pointed out lies about seeing stars. We already covered why you could see like if
I just want to say I like the velvet version of fake reality. The velvet space is kind of cool.
So you asked a
Can-
question like how
can
we
I
could
ask a
believe this
question?
stuff, how anybody could believe we went to the moon, but you believe in all this other stuff that you can't demonstrate at
Can I
all
ask-
except using the Bible. But anyways,
Can I ask you a question? Is that fine?
Yeah.
You said they never lied. It was caught on camera footage where they docked it so-called 130,000 miles away from Earth, where they're holding a partition in front of a window, and you can see the astronaut going between the camera and the Earth, where they literally just took high altitude footage and tried to make it look like the whole Earth.
I'd have to see
They-
the exact
in the-
specific
This
example.
is actual footage.
Do you
in
know
this-
the example, Grayson, that he's talking about?
I don't know what he's talking about now.
Hang on a
Then
second,
I
guys.
would need to see like you could make up conspiracy theories, just make them up, and we
They
don't have any way
lied.
to refute them. So we have
They
no
were
way
supposed
to
to be
refute.
3 days out. They were supposed to be 3
I
days
only
out.
studied the actual evidence. So if you're going to point out like these other conspiracies, you would have to like present the evidence for it. So I can
And none
see
of that
without the
could possibly
refutation.
explain the retro reflectors that are on the moon, or the fact that they
Again,
measured the scientific equipment left behind by the Apollo, like the Soviets did. Not
you
even
guys
us.
are you're believing some Soviet lies, probably. And
Yes.
secondly, that experiment nobody's going to go through trying
Not
to do.
lies.
Now, mine is easy to do. Grab a thermometer, check the shadows, you'll be all right.
We
On the
debunked
other
that
hand, I can't agree also with the camera angle because most people aren't going to I think it's a weak angle. We have some stronger things to focus on, just respectfully, Flatzoid. And basically, in terms of cosmology science, I'm happy to go into any of those rabbit holes, including the history. But in terms of the moon stuff, like I said, I kind of cram and study this one today specifically. I'm a little rusty on my my moon landing stuff. However, I can debunk NASA's credibility. I can debunk science's credibility. I can go through multiple branches of science and debunk them. I can even show you where it came from, and I can follow the lineage.
Dustin, that's why in my opening, I specifically highlighted non-NASA, non-scientist amateurs verifying that the moon landings happened.
We have a lot of those too. And they can show that there's no curve when they go up as high as possible.
Why aren't you publishing papers then that refutes all of science, dude?
I have
that
a
would
whole
be amazing.
archive. It's called the Serapeum.com.
You have a blog,
So how did you do your
I have
testing?
an archive.
How did you verify it? What was your independent dependent variable? What, it's like, did you do that? What was your HO and H1? What was all these things for the paper that you published?
It wasn't science. You never claimed science, right?
We don't trust fake science because less than 1% of those
So you weren't even doing science.
Use the scientific method.
So
they don't use science.
We're
using actual science. They actually admit that they don't use real science.
What was your independent dependent variable?
Oh,
what was
he's not doing any of that.
Did you take your fifth booster yet?
What?
All he does is have a blog.
Okay, racist.
Once again, let's move on.
I'm married to a Chinese woman. I'm not racist. I'm honest. And certain people don't like that.
That doesn't make you not racist, but
certain people don't like that.
Can I ask a scientific question?
I wonder why. Kanye was right.
Can I ask a scientific question?
I'll let Flatzoid ask his question.
Yeah, okay. This is for you, Ozien and Grayson. Can you show us the science for the moon landings, please?
I covered like the engineering required to go
engineering's
to the moon.
not science.
I understand that, but it requires the fundamental physics behind it to be able to do the engineering to go to the moon. So you have to be more specific. What exactly? Like you want to talk about how they went to the Van Allen belt? How
about orbital mechanics?
That's not science.
Yeah, radiation. Understanding radiation requires science. It requires scientific method to understand it. What's that?
Natural observed phenomena, please. Step 1.
National observed phenomenon, like we went to the moon. So to me, it's an historical argument anyway. So the question is it physically possible that we went to the moon? The answer is yes.
It's not. It violates the second law of thermodynamics.
Oh, it doesn't.
It does not. You just don't understand the second law of thermodynamics.
Again, do you know what the Joule's expansion of free gas is?
It's partially translucent. It's a plasma, a light source.
So we're talking about second law of thermodynamics, right?
There we go.
This shows that you can see the moon and the sky behind it. It matches
right now, Dustin.
Well, you can't land on something that's not solid.
Right, but we're not talking about that, right? We can talk about.
You can swim in it.
It looks pretty solid to me. It all looks pretty solid.
Then why does it change colors with the night sky?
It's like when I look at if I look at a skyscraper in the distance, depending on the atmospheric conditions, looking at the skyscraper, it can change colors. It can become occluded by fog. But I believe this thinking skyscraper exists. I can walk up and touch it just like we walked up and flew up
you can't
and touched
see it.
The moon.
But you can't lose it over the curve after 4 or 5 miles, which the math says you should be able to.
No, you don't understand that there is an atmosphere that can refract light.
Well, you can refract light, but even on foggy or non-foggy nights, it's equal. You can see the color behind.
Okay. Your specific claim was about the moon.
They don't like evidence, man.
No, your specific claim was about the moon changing colors
and
being occluded by fog and stuff like that.
We can look at buildings.
Why can't we look at buildings in the distance and see the same type of phenomenon? But we don't call the buildings fake, do we?
Dustin, what you showed was not evidence. That just wasn't. It was pictures of the moon at various times of days.
Which is evidence. We're talking about the moon.
It's not
it doesn't reach a conclusion.
Okay, I think we're going about this all wrong. You have to provide evidence that the moon is a physical rock orbiting in a natural violating space.
I did. The lunar laser the lunar laser ranging experiments. There are observatories all over the world that are physically bouncing laser beams off of the retroreflectors that were left by the Apollo crew. I've gone over that.
You haven't explained what's the difference between the temporal changes. You can't even explain because you don't understand what knowledge is. But you're trying to say that's the evidence.
You asked that already, and I answered it.
How do
You
we
can't
know
tell
the
me
moon
it's
is
the wavelength
material?
or the different.
Because people went to the moon and walked on it. People brought material back from the moon, and yes. So
It was
that's
fake.
how we know
What?
it's real.
Check into their
So-
insurance claim
So
on
you
it.
have to deny all the other stuff to get to
They
the
denied
point
the insurance claim because it was fake.
Who gives
It
a
was
shit about
petrified
some
wood.
insurance
Yeah, what about the
claim?
petrified wood?
Okay,
That
the
worked well.
petrified wood was literally one example, and nobody had a chain of custody that went back to the Apollo program for
Right.
it. It was just a gift that was given
You know-
to the Dutch Prime Minister.
You know, they still got a capsule in the laboratory which has never been opened till this day from the moon landing.
Okay,
Why
we're
is
still
that?
getting lunar
Cool.
material back from the moon, and it tests,
Tell
guess
me,
what, different
after-
than any material on Earth.
After so many years, why haven't they opened the capsule if they're so eager to show the moon
I'll
dust?
find out.
This is the first time I've heard about this capsule, so I don't know, Flatzoid. Did
Yes,
Dustin
yeah.
already leave?
And what about all the data? I mean, even Don
Not
Petit
sure.
said when all the data went missing, and now it's a painful process
No,
to bring to
They
build it up
just
again. Why is
opened
that?
it. They just opened it last year, so that's false. They opened it last year.
Last year, is that
Yep,
so?
in 2022, the space agency saved the lunar dirt for scientists working in the future with more advanced technology.
And yet,
And they opened it last year in 2022 to investigate it.
oh really? And
Yeah.
I don't know. This is gonna go for every YouTube. Mr. Beast, he just had a video out, I think 4 days ago, where he went to NASA and looked at that capsule, which has never been opened yet.
Maybe he filmed it before 2022, Flatzoid. I don't know what to tell you.
Can I have 1 minute?
3 days ago. Okay.
Yeah,
Every
it
time
says-
we give you one
I'll
minute,
share it.
wait, Dustin, every time we give you 1 minute to talk, you say like the craziest stuff I've ever heard in my life.
It doesn't
So-
make it not true. I know it sounds crazy. I don't expect you to believe
Well,
me.
let's
Test all
talk
things,
about this
hold
capsule
fast that
because
which is true. Like I said,
wait, this is debunking a claim in real time. So another conspiracy theory claim I wasn't prepared for. They opened the capsule and they say it helps them because they're going back to the moon. They can use that because they can create better vacuums today to be able to investigate the material in the
Oh,
capsules.
but
than they could
Ozien,
50 years
didn't you
ago.
know that
There we
Mr.
go.
Beast
Debunked
video
real
is a
time.
good source, a
Oh.
counter to this?
Oh, I know. Mr.
Yeah,
Beast.
because Mr.
Obvious.
Beast
He's a
video shows
scientist.
to everybody that your claim you just gave.
Let's
is
see when
debunked.
Mr. Beast did the video.
Oh,
He
so
said
that,
he
okay,
came out a
so
couple
we should
days
get
ago,
something
but
else
we don't
video
know when
then.
he films it. He films on a staggered schedule, so
So he filmed this 2 years ago.
I don't know when he filmed it, Flatzoid. I
10
literally just
months-
heard about that, and I didn't
Right.
watch the Mr. Beast video. Oh wow! I guess I'm not qualified to talk about this at all because I don't watch Mr. Beast.
All right, Dustin,
Okay,
you had
but
something to
anyway,
add?
that's not the point of the whole debate.
60
though.
seconds.
All right, you had something
Okay,
to add there?
Okay,
or
over
say there?
10
All
months. It was 2 years ago. There we go.
Can I get
2
60
years
seconds?
ago.
All right, we'll let you have a moment there, Dustin, since you did fall out and drop out for a moment.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button or something. Anyway, I just want to speak to not just NASA symbolism, but all of their symbolism. Not just the NASA equivalents, but the military tribe patches, everything, all of the different units, Space Force, everything. They all use the serpent's tongue, speaking through a flat disc as their symbol. They call it the vector. And I also want to show this real quick.
Read between the lines. Take a listen. I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again. But going to Mars should be one of the next series of steps that humans do. The first step should be going back to the moon for a number of technical reasons and exploration reasons, and then after that, Mars, maybe orbit in Venus atmosphere, maybe Europa. There's all kinds.
We can barely hear this.
To go to.
Basically,
do you
that's
agree with him?
they destroyed their technology. They can't get back to the moon type argument that NASA's official spokesperson is talking about.
Do you
However,
agree with the whole video? Wait a second. Do you agree with the whole video?
no, I think he's a
So you're
lying
cherry
piece of
picking?
shit.
Oh, so he's lying. So he's
Yes.
lying the whole time. So he
Yes.
lied.
NASA's credibility is
So they
broken than the
didn't
Ten
destroy
Commandments.
the technology. They may have destroyed the equipment that they used to go to the moon, but not the technology, because technology is just the knowledge we have.
Then why would it be a painful process to build
No,
it back
he's
again?
saying he lied. So
You
he
have to
just
build it back
misspoke.
up.
Yes,
So
he is
let's-
complete. They're all liars,
you're
but I'm telling you
using-
in their own words that their lies are
this is
flimsy
a
and
good point to
not
make.
believable.
You're using the testimony as somebody who you believe is lying.
Yes.
So your own credibility is lost there.
No, I'm showing that their
But-
credibility is bogus.
No, you
I
I
did
think
When
they-
you
I
show
think
when
they're
you
missing
show
the
a
point.
liar lying, that's not saying that you're a
So he
liar.
lied about
What?
us destroying the technology
no.
then.
Dude,
so we
I
do
think
have
you
the
guys are missing
technology.
the point.
No, I
think
believe
you
that
guys are
the
missing the
official
point.
lie, you're missing a lot of the point, but the official
I'm
lie is
not.
just so darn hard to believe.
You're
that
missing
it
the
is
point. You're
kind of bogus.
You're,
Never
Or it's
mind.
an incredulity argument.
Definitely
you're
fifth
using
vexed.
you're using a source you believe is lying to try to prove that he's telling the truth. Like-
Yes, we have already cross-examined the astronauts and their spokespeople, and we have
No,
found
you
them to
have
be
not.
liars
That is
already. Yes.
false. Also, you have not cross-examined them. You
Lavender
haven't put them on a
space,
witness
man.
stand.
Velvet
you haven't put them
space,
on.
right?
You haven't put them on a witness stand and questioned them. That's a lie. You're lying there.
Okay.
Dustin.
Okay. What
done
about
sharing-
I didn't say that I
the
did.
Facebook?
I'm using their actual public statements, their claims, their testimony, which
that's-
is showing that they're a liar. Their
No, but
testimony
that's not
shows
what
them a
you
liar.
said. You put them.
I didn't
that's
say
not what
anything
you
about
said.
putting them in court. You did. You keep saying court, but
That's
actually,
the
liars
terminology you use.
liars can be cross-examined in the courtroom.
Cross-examination.
And you
didn't
would find that if they
cross-examine
have
them,
conflicting witnesses,
so you're lying.
witnesses
You
and
did not
testimonies,
cross-examine them. Then you did.
I never
you
said
lied.
that.
Are you done?
Yes,
What?
you did.
are you done trying to
All right, let's end the screen share there.
Well, we're not on topic. You're talking about the credibility
of your liars
of
that give you
astronauts
all
that
of your
took it-
science?
You're talking about the credibility of sailors, airmen, soldiers, and saying
Most
they're
of those
liars.
guys think it's flat.
You're saying no, they don't. That's another
Yeah.
lie.
These guys are
I
all
was in
free.
aviation.
These are all
I worked with
Freemasons of the
pilots.
tribe of Edomites, the one Jesus warned us about, that is actually behind all of these lies,
Oh
and
my
they keep getting
goodness.
caught
Do you
in different
believe
lies.
this shit?
Okay.
How do you know any of this is true? You deny the moon, but you believe the Earth is hollow and it has a
Ozien?
dome and it's flat.
Ozien, dude, you're getting a bit triggered here. Okay.
It's
Why
funny.
in 50 years has no one gone past low Earth orbit?
What we've been to the moon. We went to the moon this year in 2023. What are you talking about?
No
We sent a
person
lunar-
has been past low Earth orbit in 50
No,
years.
that's not
apparently.
what you said.
Wait,
You
wait,
said-
wait.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all have all been talking. I've been silent. Does anybody know anything about the upcoming Artemis missions that are sending people back to the moon?
Yeah.
I mean, what are y'all gonna say when
Sending
those
people
happen?
back to the moon.
What are you gonna say when those happen and everybody's watching them? And
I do
People
wanna
go
answer.
back to the moon.
Did you watch the
10
movie
seconds.
Gravity?
10 seconds on that.
Did you watch the movie
Just
Gravity?
jump in when you.
yeah, it sucked.
They're all named after pagan entities for a reason. The Nimrod,
Mhm.
the Artemis, the Athena, the Zeus, the Apollo, all of this shit's
History.
pagan because they're pagan Satanists.
It's symbolism.
Because
It's symbolism.
Okay,
Exactly.
so your argument is that the Artemis missions are gonna be fake because they're named after a Greek goddess?
I'm telling you that NASA is
Yes,
faking all this stuff
apparently.
so that you won't believe in God as they set you up for final destruction, including with other things like the jab.
All right.
What do you
it's
think?
all
What do you guys think?
tied in.
You're
You got your web of conspiracies. It all comes together and it all corroborates itself.
Although you don't
because
know
of
who
some
I am, do you?
crazy, some people have
You're
a shadow cabal and controlling a
You
secret
should have
shadow
studied me
cabal.
first. Absolutely, and I can prove every bit of it. I can prove they're
No, you
Satanists. I can
can't.
prove
Oh,
they
yeah, I
sacrifice
bet.
babies.
You can't prove
I can-
any of it.
I
You
can
just
prove they've been
suppose
kicked
it's
out of
true.
109 countries for
Okay.
adrenochrome.
You can't even prove Satan exists.
Yes, I can. Yes, I
No,
can.
you can't.
I've
Yes,
actually
you
won
can.
those
If
debates,
you
and I
think
would love
you
to have
you're
you.
irrational.
I would love to debate you on that. However, yeah, absolutely, they're Satanists, and you can prove every bit of it. They've been kicked
Exactly.
out of 109 countries for killing babies.
You don't
and draining
understand what proof
Ow.
means. First of all, if you
It's
think you can
over.
prove Satan exists.
blood. 109 evictions found guilty in courts of law with
This
monarchs
is
involved.
insane.
Hold on.
I mean, it's not false though, is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
No,
can
it's not.
I ask a question?
I might
Who
be a little
owns the whole
lost
space
here.
agency?
So
There
I
are
come at this from a
multiple- there are-
scriptural perspective.
Hey, wait, Dustin, the question was not for you, bro.
Well, I just
There
want you guys
are
to know.
the question was not for you. Okay?
Okay.
There are multiple space agencies. Like there's ESA, there's NASA, there's ISRO, there's the Chinese one, there's the Japanese one. There are
SpaceX.
agencies all over the world. They're owned by different people.
And I
SpaceX.
said,
So why do they all have
sorry,
the same symbol?
different people.
They don't
Different
all have
people.
the same
Same
symbol.
people. Same people. The same people. Edom owns them. The Edomites own every bit of them. That's why these are the same symbols.
Prove it.
You
So
might
a
wanna
serpent's-
look- you might wanna
a
look at the
serpent's
They
tongue
company.
don't
speaking
all
through a
have the
fourth
same
disc.
symbol. This is just more of your racism
Dude,
and freaking.
I'll pull it back up for you.
Dude,
Hang on.
You
No, you
might
didn't
want to
show
look at the
every
company.
symbol. You showed like 4 symbols, dude. Okay, I'll look at the Chinese space symbol. Let's look at that.
You might want to look at the
Chinese.
company. You might want to look at the company behind all those companies. The
I have a
umbrella
lot.
corps, dude.
I have a lot more of their symbolism breaking down each military patch, space force, everything, all branches, everybody, every government, all over the world, all using the same serpent's forked tongue through a flat disc. It is their symbolism. It is the UN logo. It is the map that they actually use. So you can deny it all day, but the fact is we're on a flat, non-rotating Earth, and they are Satanists, and they're of a particular tribe.
I got the Chinese one up. It doesn't show any friggin' red line symbol, and you're just looking at like the one. There's a circle, like it's an open circle. You call that snake?
No more screen shares.
I mean, it's just ridiculous, dude. Like
it's all relevant. Not 100% of this is relevant.
No, none of it's relevant. You're just you're drawing a conclusion.
You don't want to go
looking
past.
for evidence that you think supports your conclusion.
You don't want to go past your microcosm.
No, you've already reached a conclusion. You don't have evidence for any of it.
I have tons of evidence for it. In fact, I hope that I don't lose this debate, but so far I've never lost a debate, including on biblical Earth, including with scientists.
Lost. I've
including, by the way, a scientist who wrote a big book called Flat Earth, Flat Wrong, and he even wrote a cosmology.
Let me break in here. Dustin, the guy who wrote Flat Earth, Flat Wrong is not a scientist. That's Robert Sunjanus, bro. Yep. He got his PhD from an unaccredited Vanuatu university that's now defunct, and it was
that makes a lot of sense, actually. But he sure speaks the lingo. Anyway, he tried to argue that you could zoom in.
He's not a scientist. That's the point. I have won my debate against Robert Sunjanus too.
It sounds like you won another debate, sir.
Yeah, well, if I wasn't afraid of getting demonetized for the crazy shit you've been saying.
Okay, so my question then is, Grayson, just because the institution folded, does that make his PhD no longer credible? Even though he's gone through the whole process.
Never credible because it was a non-accredited university. It was unaccredited.
Great. So let's put it this way.
His PhD was in theology. So he's not a scientist, no matter how you slice it. And it's not even relevant to this topic.
You can be a scientist without a degree in that.
No, this is relevant to the topic because we're going to do this according to Dustin's argument. NASA's credibility is shown false. So therefore, anything you want to claim of them going to the moon is false.
And that is why in my opening, I explicitly excluded any NASA evidence. I only looked at independent third parties and amateurs for all the evidence I presented.
And their credibility is not refuted. You just deny their conclusions. You just deny
their actual statements that contradict with one another that cannot possibly be made to swear.
They didn't contradict each other. You took it out of context.
You cannot possibly make them swear.
Right. Either you took their statements out of context. I thought
here's a whistleblower.
No more of those
Can't you even follow the rules like Ryan's outlined?
This is a NASA whistleblower I'm trying to share.
Let's talk.
You're literally just sharing memes you saw on Facebook.
Gus Grissom was murdered 5 days after blowing the whistle on their fake space program.
I'm sure, bro.
But I can't share it. So you guys research it and test all things and hold fast that which is true. It's good advice. Test all things.
Okay, so what is the actual rebuttal to the retro reflectors on the moon?
You can't go to space to place the retro reflectors there. You haven't proven gas pressure without containment yet.
I already said gravity contains the atmosphere on the Earth, and
gravity is not a force.
I think it's a lie you've never tested.
The retro reflectors, you think that they've never been tested, despite that there are observatories all over the world that test this stuff hundreds of times a year.
Okay, what's the moon?
Like the one in the Vatican named Lucifer. Yeah, those.
All right, it's all just Satan, I'm sure.
What's the moon,
have
Grayson?
No idea.
What is the
Welcome
moon?
to the Seed War, everyone.
All right.
It's a celestial body that orbits the Earth, bro. How are you even asking that question?
I think what we should do, guys, because we are, once again, kind of spiraling off the topic, and I feel like we're going to have to do some work on this post. So just bear with us, guys. Let's get these super chats up and read out some of these super chats and respond to them. So there's lots of them coming in. You can continue putting in the super chats. We'll keep the super chats rolling. We are going to do an after show on Matters Now. So if you want to come over there and check that out, that'd be fun. Let's see here. Congo44 says, sad fake Christians, we have been to the moon. I think that's commentary on you calling people fake Christians and saying we have, and then he says after that we have been to the moon. So any
read the scripture.
commentary, it's just
I'm
more of a
not sure
statement.
who he's talking to.
Let's
Can
let
we-
Flatzoid in here. Yeah,
Based-
go ahead, Flatzoid.
Based on this statement he just made, the Bible specifically teaches against the heliocentric model. Therefore, the moon is not a physical rock in a space violating natural law.
And most Christian scholars disagree with you. So I guess
Well,
you're
those most
the
Christian
scholarly
scholars
expert.
ignore historical
Oh.
fact in the
Well, I'm
Bible.
sure that they're all
Well,
saying
they have improper hermeneutics. They don't read an
Oh,
actual literal
yeah.
hermeneutic.
So
Everything's
you're-
a metaphor to them.
You're
And
more
Genesis didn't happen.
educated than the top experts in Christianity in the world. You're
They're,
better.
they're
I
welcome
can-
to
You're more
debate me.
educated. Okay.
They're welcome to
Okay,
debate
okay,
me.
Dustin's
Good.
never
I'm
lost
glad
a
we
debate.
Can I
I'm
ask-
glad
can I-
we confirmed that you're more educated than the guys
Okay,
with
can I ask you a
PhD
question,
in
Ozien?
theology
All right.
that are Christian.
Let's
Good.
let Flatzoid
Okay.
in here. Flatzoid.
Okay, then I'm going to ask you a question, Job. In Job, God, they asked God to stop the sun from moving so he can finish the battle. Did God stop the earth from moving or the sun from moving, please?
Also, they're having a shortage of actual scientists who can cognitively function at college level.
Oh,
Science
sure,
is
buddy.
not what you actually believe in. Right here, for example.
Are you projecting a
Here's
little
AP,
bit, maybe?
here's,
No
here's
more
AP,
screen
AP
shares.
News.
My
My
goodness.
I can't
goodness.
share evidence. I
We're
mean,
not
this
doing
is-
any more screen shares. It's been a lot of screen shares for
Sci-
one debate.
Okay.
So
Well, science is firmly against so-called official science. I mean, it's 95% government
sure.
funded. Worse than fake
Sure.
news, in
But-
fact.
But
you're
you know
tinfoil hat.
the truth. You're the expert. You know
Right.
everything.
You like to attack me rather than my arguments a lot. I think I know who that
you
comes
keep
from.
attacking the knowledge of everybody else because you think you have special knowledge. So yes,
Well, I think
I
I've
mean-
studied harder. That's all. I think I don't know everything.
Yeah,
But
you
I-
study harder than the scientists, sure, bro.
The
What
scientists-
scientists? That's his whole
yeah.
point. You haven't brought up science yet, guys. There's been no science presented.
I
It's
can give
all
you quotes from
pseudoscience.
Einstein and the other modern scientists that disagree with you as well. But I mean, you won't
They
accept
don't
it. I can't
disagree.
share it.
They don't disagree.
all right, next one. Let's keep going. LJ, reminder. LJ, yes, you're here for the right debate. Always commenting with flat Earth questions, and
it's a
you know,
globe.
you're in the you're
Not
in
a
the right
flat Earth
spot.
debate, so
Well, it's not a flat Earth debate, but
LJ,
usually
woo-hoo.
LJ is always hanging out for those. We finally are doing a moon hoax debate. Glad you're here.
it
So
was basically a flat Earth debate, though.
I'm gonna sip this beer if you keep. No, I'm kidding. All right, so I'm just picking Grayson. If the moon is bright enough to be seen at 238,000 miles away, how did the astronauts not get blind when landing on it? In quotation marks.
Reflective light. So it's the sun is where the light comes from. So the moon light is reflecting off the regolith, and it's what you call an albedo. So as you get closer to it, it's actually going to be like less lumens for the part that's reflecting directly back to you, I would think. But anyways, that's why it's coming from the sun and reflecting off the moon.
Any thoughts down there, or
I mean, yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it
cold
wouldn't-
light debunks that,
Up
and
there.
lunar eclipses when the sun is still out also debunk that.
I just love how they still beg the question of a physical rock, which we cannot demonstrate in reality.
We brought rocks back.
Translucent moon also, you brought back nothing because that was actually tested by the insurance companies on the claim, and it was found to be bogus and in fact fake. It was just petrified wood.
all right,
That was
Congo 44.
Anecdote.
Yep, we're gonna carry on there, gents. Congo 44. 2 questions for Flatzoid. As an expert in thermodynamics, please educate us all about Maxwell's demon and how can we bounce a signal off a retroreflector left on the moon. All right, so I'll let you answer the first one. We'll take 5 minutes on the panel and pass it around. So, thermodynamics, please
Maxwell's
educate
demon.
us all about Maxwell's demon. Over to you, Flatzoid.
Maxwell's demon, in simple terms, is just separation between the particles. That's about it. It sorts itself out. Okay, it's got to do with the increase in entropy. That's practically what Maxwell's demon. You can imagine a demon with a partition, opening and closing the partition and letting certain particles through. That's Maxwell demon in very simple terms. And no, I never claimed to be an expert. I just know enough to show the globe debunked.
And I just want to mention Albert Einstein quote, 1952. Whether or not the motion of the Earth in space can be made perceptible in terrestrial experiments, all attempts of this nature led to a negative result. there's a little bit of a skip there to kind of close it in, but they admit it that they can't prove it, and their top scientists, Hawking, everybody, they're all admitting it.
Yeah, what was that key word there? Terrestrial. Whenever you're looking up, then you can see things that corroborate the motion of the Earth. So
you also make a great point in terms of terrestrial perspective. I want to mention that there's not a single photo of of planet Earth ever. It's all CGI. There's the sex written in the cloud, all kinds of stuff. Some of it's art. Earlier stuff was art. Modern stuff is CGI. You can zoom out on Google Maps. There's no actual curve. There's no actual photos.
You're once again quoting people you think are lying. You think they're lying.
I didn't quote anybody except Einstein, who admits that you're wrong.
You're taking Einstein out of context, and you're misquoting him. But you think everything else he believed is a lie. But you're
showing you how your scientists
you're cherry picking part of a quote and seeing this cherry pick part of his overall quote.
People see through you.
Definitely give you a chance to respond.
Part of the quote is true, but the rest of what he says is false.
Okay, can you show us? Can you show us?
I said I'd let Dustin respond to Ozien.
I'm showing the discrepancies in your supposed scientists, brother.
No, you're cherry picking. You're being dishonest. You should be honest about the claim.
No, we can't go through everything they've ever said.
You should be honest about what Einstein is claiming. So Einstein believes that the moon exists. Einstein believes that space is real. Einstein believes that there's a vacuum in space. Einstein believes that
he also believes you can't prove it.
Einstein believes the Earth orbits the sun. So Einstein says you can't do it from an optical thing from the Earth.
He believed you can't prove it.
We can send satellites to space.
He believed you can't prove it. You can't send satellites to space. It's all CGI, and that's why they have sex written in the clouds, etc. There's like 30 different versions of the blue marble. In fact, Einstein said you can't prove any of this motion.
Einstein's honest. Einstein's true. He believed all that
stuff. Einstein admitted that you cannot prove motion in his own quote right there.
Any thoughts over there, Grayson, before we go back to Flatzoid? Haven't heard from you in a hot second.
You're a liar.
Actually, Grayson is frozen.
You are a liar.
I thought he was focused, but he is frozen.
And you're a liar, and you're of your father, the devil, and the truth is not in you.
Grayson's back.
Okay, Christianity's false. So if you want to have a biblical debate,
I've
we
won
can
those
do that
debates
next.
too. I spanked Adam Green on that debate. I've spanked other people on that debate. Jeffrey Daugherty, I've spanked him on that debate. I love those debates, brother.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Gold medal for being modest.
Yeah, that's
very. I'd love to be part of that debate too.
I'm working on that.
All right, Flatzoid, let's see if you could do it to the panel again.
Okay.
Second part of the question. Also, how can we bounce a signal off the retro reflector left on the moon? That's for you, Flatzoid.
What is the moon? How do you get a rective reflector on something that you haven't even been able to prove that you can get to? It violates the second law of thermodynamics. Simple stuff. Been through this.
Okay, so wait, he asked what the moon is.
And then I want to ask Grayson and Ozien.
I want to answer the question.
Well, I know Ozien.
Show us a photo of the moon, of the Earth from space, please.
Just because Grayson was frozen, I'll give Grayson a chance to respond first, if you don't mind, and then we'll let you answer too.
There are plenty of photos of the Earth from the moon. I mean, like the Japanese probe just took one just a couple of years ago. I just did. If you weren't paying attention,
not one.
But in particular, the question was like, obviously, the fact that we do bounce signals, lasers off of the retro reflector on the moon shows that, in fact, we did go to the moon in the Apollo program. That's what that evidence demonstrates.
I just want to mention a quote from Stephen Hawking in 2010, so much more recent.
Does it have to deal with the moon?
Can I actually finish? Can I finish?
You're always just posting more memes. That's all
you guys don't like evidence, apparently. I've summarized it for you with pictures and infographics. That's what that is. But anyway, quote, one can use either picture as a model of the universe, for our observations of the heavens can be explained by assuming either the Earth or the sun to be at rest. That's Hawking. I could keep going.
Sure. Relative motion. But what is the moon is 43% oxygen, 20% silicon, 19% magnesium, 10% iron, 3% calcium, 3% aluminum, 0.42% chromium, 0.18% titanium, and 0.12 manganese. And
that's
I think
according to NASA. Water. According to all of the actual insurance companies, they say it's 100% petrified wood.
Okay, well,
the insurance claims.
Here's the photo that y'all were wanting from the Hokuto R lander.
All right, it's your first screen share. I'll let you get away with it because I think
there's no stars.
Only your second one, I guess.
Sorry,
is that a photograph? Here's a picture of the Earth with the moon in the foreground. There you go. The Japan's Hokuto R lander before crashing the moon sent like had this photo.
And
So
they
that's
admit to
what you're
crashing.
asking for.
Sorry.
I provided exactly what you were asking for.
It's
Sorry,
no
was that a
stars.
photo
It's
All right,
or
let's
fake.
end the screen
render?
share.
There's no stars.
Is it
It's
a-
fake.
Yeah, is that a
absence
photo or
of
a render,
stars-
Grayson?
The absence of stars does not make it fake in any
Yes,
way.
it absolutely does.
It's just
Do you know how
the
cameras work?
exposure of the photo.
Exposure.
They would
Exposure.
absolutely work. They would work
Anyway.
better in a vacuum than they would in a contained air bubble, which is what
Yeah,
you
but
claim
when
we're
you
on.
when you have
with
when you
atmospheric
have-
refraction and such. But if you're
But
in a vacuum, you can see them
Dustin.
pinpoint, just like if you're on a mountaintop.
Dustin, next time you want to test that out, go take your photo, try to take a picture of the night stars, and then put a giant flashlight right in the foreground and let me know if you get any stars.
We covered that earlier. I shared an image, different slides with different colors and light scenes, and you could see the stars in all of them, just depending on how bright. So even when
Again,
it was
you don't
fairly
A
bright during the day, you
object
can
in
see
the
it.
foreground.
We're gonna move
There's no
on.
bright object in the foreground here. It's just tiny little planet
there's
Earth
the moon,
and no
dude.
stars. And the moon
There's
is
the
like in the.
moon.
It's not that bright. No,
The moon
it's not
is
as bright as what I showed you earlier. Not even close.
When it's taken up
Alright.
half the screen, it's pretty bright. When you're trying to take a picture of the Earth, you're not going to be able to see because you're trying to get a shot of the Earth from the moon. Those two
Zero
objects
pictures.
are going to like dim out the stars behind them because of
5
the
seconds.
It's
What
far more
camera-
convincing. When
All right,
Star
let's let
Trek
Flatzoid
took off.
respond. The question was for Flatzoid, so if he's got something to say, let's let him talk.
So I want to know, what camera did they use, Grayson, to take that rendered image? Because it's not a photograph.
Oh, wow.
Whatever was the Hokuto lander. You probably know it better than me, right? What camera did they use, Flatzoid?
You're the one that brought it up, so I'm asking you a simple question.
I
Because
don't know.
you got to look at the
what camera
resolution
they
as
used.
well. Really weird.
All right. Let's
Why
carry
is
on.
that weird?
We've got lots of questions coming in here, guys. So let's see if we can wrap this all the way around. LJ comes in again. The lunar model was constructed with items available at the dollar store. Google it. Why would NASA destroy the original Apollo lunar landers? And in the interest of time, we'll try to keep these to the side that they're dedicated to. So that one would be for Grayson and Ozien from LJ.
I mean, it's just completely factually incorrect that it was constructed with stuff from the dollar store. So, I mean, that's just kind of like a little gotcha or whatever. And I don't even think that they destroyed the lunar landers, did they?
There's one left. Like it hasn't been used, I believe.
All right.
I don't know where they're displayed in museums, but you know, again, we show that the moon landed from third-party independent sources and the retroreflectors. That demonstrates that it did happen beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt, and our opponents were not able to refute any of that evidence.
All right.
So I'm sorry, Dustin, but you've lost your first debate.
I do
It's
have
up to the commenters, friend. That's up to the commenters every time.
I do have a hot one coming in here. If you guys want me to, if you don't mind, there, Dustin and
Hey,
Flatzoid.
Flatzoid
I
finally
don't
got his
mind at all.
tinfoil. He can make a hat.
I don't mind at all. I'm
Oh.
used to it.
I just stole a panel of the lunar module.
So Mega Marie says, why do flat earthers come to debates and say they didn't prepare much? Is it because you know you don't have evidence? So without evoking the actual responder, what would you say to somebody who would say something like that?
Well, James, you can be my witness. You just recently asked me to participate in this. I'm used to doing, as everyone can see for themselves, other types of debates, a very different diverse variety of debates, including globe, biblical, earth debates, which I'm still undefeated in. And I'm not bragging. There's a lot of things I don't know, but this is what I've studied. This is what I do know. And I was a lifelong devout atheist until I studied this. It was the last thing I studied. In fact, I thought it was stupid, just like you guys do. And then I tested it, and then I stopped thinking it was stupid. And I said, I can't attack it anymore. And I started to defend it. So we all of us, so-called flat earthers, I prefer biblical earther. We believed one time what you believe now, and we didn't come back from what we learned to that belief system for a reason. Once you go flat, you never go back. That's the truth of it.
Any thoughts there, Flatzoid?
Amen. Yeah, I 100% agree with Dustin on this. But it's as simple as that. Even me, I don't usually debate moon landings because I'm more for the flat Earth kind of cosmology thing, and the fact that they aren't able to back up their claims that you can violate natural law shows everything. We don't really need to show more than that. No one's ever claimed to know everything, but we do know enough to show the globe is fake.
That's your claim. They're violating natural law. No one's violating any laws of physics to go to
Demonstrate
the moon.
gas pressure.
That's your claim. The Earth.
Yeah, it's
There you
contained
go.
by gravity. And if you want, there are over 5,000 documented exoplanets. Most of them have atmospheres that are contained by the force of gravity. If you are interested,
Gravity is not a force. It's been not a force for 180 years already.
Flatzoid, if you are interested in any other kinds of pressure being contained without a physical container, but with a force, look at surface tension. You can look at
surface tension on liquids is not the same as gas.
10
It
seconds there,
is a fluid,
and
then you can also look at a penning trap that uses like electromagnetism to contain charged particles without a physical container. You
So
can
not
look
gravity then. So
yeah,
not
you can
gravity.
Look at again.
And that gas is already contained, by the way.
Stop interrupting me, please.
All right, 5 seconds there,
I'm sorry,
Grayson,
wasn't
because
this
we do
to
have to
us?
move
Wasn't
on.
this to us, the
It is
question?
to them as well.
You were
yes.
not.
Yeah.
I was answering Flatzoid.
I'm interrupting you while you guys weren't supposed to talk.
He's not letting me
10
finish.
seconds.
Just 1 second there, Flatzoid. Give him 10 seconds to respond since we've gotten this far in your back and forth. But yeah, we're going to try to behave ourselves. Dice tinfoil.
All I was illustrating was when you can have a force acting as a container. Gravity is a pseudo force, but you can measure it just like any other force in newtons. You can have a force that's containing fluid pressure without a physical container. That force is acting as a container. Surface tension, electromagnetism. You can look at gravity doing it on other planets. There's pressure wave generators that like really generate waves of pressure that don't need any container in our atmosphere. So there you go. There's a few examples.
Can I give a closing statement?
There's pressure in that cup.
I have something to say on that too.
Can I give a closing statement on this?
All right, yeah. Each of you can have 15 seconds. It's fine.
Yeah, if you jump in a swimming pool and you swirl the water around in the swimming pool, say, see, I'm swirling around the water, therefore not containment. Is that swimming pool contained or not?
The total swimming pool is contained, but the pockets of localized higher and lower pressure that you've created with your movement are not contained in a physical container.
Can I get 10 seconds?
You contradicted yourself.
Yes, as well. We'll, like I said, Grayson, we're going to try to keep
Maybe
it back
20.
and forth.
Well, he asked me a question. So.
I know, it's fine. We'll try to keep it
I hate to interrupt you guys.
low because we got lots of questions there, but it's okay. Go ahead, Dustin.
I want people to understand our position on gravity. It's not that we don't believe in up and down. Things fall, obviously, this happens. It's that we don't believe in water clinging to a cannonball shooting through a vacuum, basically, with air clinging to it, and we don't feel a breeze and nothing pulls off into space. And in fact, at the speeds they're telling us, it would look a lot more like sort of like a droplet of water, like shooting through space with a giant ocean tail sticking out behind us.
None of us believe that either. None of us on this panel believe that's true. None of us.
That's essentially it. And also, I've also noticed a trend. Just 5 more seconds. 5 more seconds, and you can talk. I've also noticed a pattern of people saying, "Did the Bible really say what it said? It said, or did the scientists really say what I just quoted them saying?" I want to just mention there's a deception happening here, and people can judge that for themselves as well.
Yeah, quote mining, that's the deception.
Next question is for you guys. So if you got any other commentary, you want to ask them a question, that's fine. But we're going to try to keep these questions to the side that they're for. And yeah, if you want to branch out, that's up to you guys. Next one is for you guys, so it's up to you. From LJ, how would a lander made of foil keep from exploding? And that's how he wrote it out too. So I had to say it that way.
What?
Why would it explode?
He's probably seeing the pressure within the lander. So the lander was designed, I think, for a quarter atmosphere of pressure. So it's like going down 3 meters below water. That's how much pressure. So if you've ever been to a bottom of a 10-foot pool, that's how much pressure that's being pushed outward to the lunar module. So a sheet of aluminum foil wouldn't even break. And it's not a sheet of aluminum foil either. So.
You can visually see it's paper thin on the actual official lander photo, and it's also bent and crooked, and there's not like even matching screws and straps and such. It literally they actually didn't finish it.
They had insulation. You understand they had insulation too. The aluminum was the shield from the charged particle radiation going through the Van Allen belt.
They had
insulation.
Even the one astronaut says it's so thin he could stick his finger through it.
There's panels where the corners sticking out because they forgot to screw it.
So if you took a sheet of aluminum paper to a bottom of a 10-foot pool and pulled it up, would the sheet rip?
Surface displacement.
Would the sheet rip?
if you're sending people into space, would you not screw in all of the corners?
Would the sheet rip? Or the aluminum foil rip? No, it wouldn't. So
Surface
that's how much
displacement,
pressure there
right?
is. The outward pressure to the shielding is a quarter atmosphere. It's equivalent to going down 3 meters below
Sorry,
water.
you're going 3 meters below water. The water's pushing on you from the outside.
Yeah.
If you're in a vacuum, there's nothing pushing on from the outside.
No, it's pushing out. So the quarter atmosphere
And
inside
nothing
the
pushing
container.
back.
Correct.
For those
So
who
the
have,
quarter
What happens when you put a
it's
balloon
only
in a vacuum?
It's only a quarter atmosphere
James.
of pressure. That's it. This is
What
Ryan,
happens if
by
you
the
put a
way,
balloon
not
in a
James,
vacuum?
but-
anyone who's been in
Just
an
1 second.
airplane knows
Yeah.
this is fake. Paper will not survive atmospheric push that would be necessary to get into fake space or even to just fly a jet.
Show me the math for that, Dustin.
So the lander was
What?
inside it. The
I don't wanna
lander,
test
the
it.
lander itself was encased when it went to orbit.
Just
What
show
are you
me the
talking
math.
about?
Then
All right.
why was it rattled thin, and why were the the sheet metal all loose? And
The
All right,
lander was
last-
enclosed. It wasn't like exposed to the atmosphere as it went to space.
Last thought to you, Grayson, if you got any, and we're gonna move on.
Yeah, our opponents either put up or shut up. Give me the math, give me the models, or just don't say anything. Let's move on to the next question. We have lots of questions to get through. We're not going to be here for 6 hours.
All right, dude. Let's get through the
We are.
questions for sure. We got lots of them. Keep them
All
coming
they
in.
have is
you
math
know,
and models.
Dustin, not
keep
your
them
time
there
to
all the
talk,
time.
bro.
Yeah, let's try to get through them. But I will also remind everybody, I got to do the modern day debate PR as well. Hit the like button if you haven't already. If you're having fun hanging out in the live chat, tomorrow we are going to be doing a flat versus globe debate. It's Mercedes and Kyle versus Leo and Mark Reed. Justin's going to be hosting that one, and then be doing the after show, which we'll be doing one for this debate as well on Matters Now. So definitely, if you want to check that out, that's cool. If not, that's all cool too. Let's carry on with the super chats, everybody. And like I said, thank you so much for the support. Free Palestine says, what star was used in the inertia navigation system in order to go to the moon? Please, CGI globe lovers, don't ignore the question, and welcome to Flat Earth.
What was the question? What star was used?
What star was used in the inertia navigation system in order to go to the moon?
I don't know. Why do you guys know what they're referring to here?
Right, I don't know.
Polaris, mate.
Okay.
Inertia navigate. So how did they navigate to the moon? Like they knew where the Earth was. They knew where the moon was. They used general
Polaris.
relativity to get to the moon.
The
They
point
used
is-
Mars.
Great topic.
Let's look. They used 37 stars plus the sun, moon, and Earth for navigation. So 37 stars. They used the list includes stars named Navi, Rigor, Gnosis. So 37 stars in sun, moon, and Earth. There you go.
Sort of a side
but-
question.
How did they get the orientation, guys?
We can see the moon. I don't.
Everybody usually uses
We know the orbit
Polaris
of the moon.
to orient. So
We use
Polaris is used for a lot of
for
proofs.
earthly navigation to
Proofs,
go
in fact.
north, so we know where north is. You don't have to see Polaris to navigate the Earth, especially with GPS.
It's another topic.
This seems like a useless segue.
Yeah,
Any other good questions?
You only need three, you only need to see three fixed things to be able to navigate. So
It's really funny how like the only time a question did not spawn a huge discussion was the time that Ryan walked away from the computer and we can't go to the next question.
Yeah.
But
Well,
also,
you went-
you just
they're under
admitted
this
that they're
discussion.
fixed. They are indeed fixed.
Yeah.
Polaris is always the same place every year, same precision clockwork.
Yeah,
Oh,
not
so
up to your,
that-
Relatively
buddy.
fixed. The move.
No,
the
it's
top-
perfectly fixed. It actually, there's ancient archeological like
It's
ruins
so-
where they have a pinhole that goes like
No.
10
That's
feet.
so
lines
easy
up
to
same year.
debunk.
It's
So
on like
easy
History
to
Channel and such.
debunk.
You can find those. been
Even
the same
even the
since the
sun.
beginning of
is
time.
exor-
All right, I think Grayson, you had a thought there. This is for you,
Yeah,
fellas,
it's-
so you can inject when you need.
Yeah, Polaris was not always like the North Star. It's not even the exact like center of which like the celestial sphere like spins around. It's just a little bit off center, and it changes. It's not always constant. All his little ancient aliens pyramid stuff has been debunked so many times at this point. It's not the topic.
It lines up every year exactly the same place down a 15-foot, 10-foot chute with like pinhole precision, and it lights a certain chamber on a certain day of the year in some of these ancient ruins, which is actually a fairly common practice, in fact.
thousands of years.
because it is not a cannonball covered in water, shooting through space, followed by a shotgun blast.
Well,
of
no one
everything
believes
random.
that. No one
That is
believes that's
exactly the
true.
official model. Yeah,
No, it's
cannonball
not the official
covered in
model.
water.
You're lying about the official model. And also,
Promise.
We've established who the liar is here.
Something's
All right.
moving. Yes,
That's their question.
Something's moving. You can see a different face of the sun. So either the sun is rotating because you see different face of the sun, right? Or the Earth is going around the sun. One of the two is true.
No, we could go into like the
We get the final word
So you
on this
think it's
question.
CGI?
we could go
CGI.
into the various wobbles and such and how they're
You think
complete
the
like
sun is
nonsense.
CGI then?
but
Okay, good.
They
All
actually
right.
claim 3 competing
All
wobbles.
right, I hear the plea of Grayson. What's going on, buddy? You had something to say, or sorry?
Yeah, I'm saying that we were supposed to have the final question for this one, or the final statement for this question, because it was a question to us, right? So I'm saying let's move on to the next question.
Sure thing. Yeah, we should definitely do that because we do have a lot of questions.
That's
guys.
what I'm trying to do here.
All right. I can tell Grayson might be in a bit of a hurry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a 1-minute timer, guys, and we will get through these super chats. All right. So question for Congo 44. No ad homs. All right. We want questions that are going to kick our conversation in the butt. All right. Thanks for your first super chat, Toby. Ditto on what I just said. Free Palestine says the Antikythera mechanism is evidence that the Greeks knew we are one beautiful family on a non-rotating flat Earth in the center of the whole universe. I think that was for you guys.
I can respond to that.
1 minute, guys.
Yeah, the Antikythera mechanism doesn't have anything to do with the shape of the Earth. The ancient Greeks from Eratosthenes onward knew that we were not on a flat Earth, and the builders of the Antikythera mechanism were in the Hellenistic age, like after Eratosthenes. So they were also aware that the Earth was not flat. You don't need any of that to build the Antikythera mechanism.
All right, 40 seconds left. Ozien?
Based on geocentric principles.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Oh.
You might want to look it up, mate. Anyway,
Any
I'm
thoughts?
well
you'll
aware
get the
of
final
the
thing.
Antikythera mechanism. You're just talking out your butt about it.
25 seconds, Ozien, if you had anything to add.
Yeah.
All right. Pointless Poppy coming in. So lightning isn't real because people once believed lightning was created by gods, referring to comments on Newton believing in gravity. Yeah, I think that's for you two down there, is it? Yeah.
I don't think I understand that question. Can you please repeat it?
So lightning isn't real because people once believed lightning was caused by gods, referring to comments on Newton believing in gravity. Oh, okay.
Well, we have a better natural sciences answer for things now. Knowledge has increased. I mean, the age of the internet and such. And there's more truth tellers now, frankly. They were killed for saying a lot of this stuff throughout most of Roman history. So, frankly, things have changed, and that's kind of why this stuff is coming out when it is. You used to die for reading the Bible. You used to have your whole life, your whole family would be burned at the stake with you for daring to translate it because it didn't agree with Rome's official science or official whatever, because they had a lot of power and they were basically selling middlemanship to salvation. It's a whole different topic, but basically, this doesn't. It seems more like a sarcastic remark than a question.
All right.
Just a
Second.
point. Well,
Flatzoid.
response, I guess. So, or go ahead, Flatzoid.
It's over to Flatzoid.
And
Sorry.
no, you can respond quickly. It's fine. Because all I was going to say is, I forgot my whole train of thought now.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right,
The
if you
whole
can,
point of the comment was just showing that your argument about Newton, what he said about gravity, can be applied to what ancient people said about lightning.
1 second.
They're
there,
really
Grayson.
quick about
Ozien.
lightning, though. Lightning requires atmospheric pressure to be true, gravity to be true. So our understanding, the natural laws, understanding of lightning requires all this other physics and stuff to be true. So yes.
We can show between.
No, it's over to
between-
Flatzoid. Sorry, Dustin. He didn't get a chance to
And
speak
I know what
yet.
I want to say. First of all, I want to say the statement, because it's more a statement, not a question. It's a non sequitur.
Yeah.
And it's totally got nothing to do with one another. Gravity is not a force, by the way, and gravity is pseudoscience, where they
10
believed
seconds.
lightning was a belief system. It was not based on science, just like phlatzogen was considered a thing because of pseudoscience, and today it's not. That's why gravity was considered a force and why it's not a force today. That's why it's not science, it's pseudoscience, because it's belief.
We're going to move on from
just
there.
10 seconds,
guys.
if I can. I want to address the lightning aspect for 10 seconds. Basically, a
really
taser analogy. If you turn a taser this way, it will still connect lightning without any sort of like gravity mechanism. If you turn it this way, it would still happen the same way. It doesn't need gravity for electrical discharge to happen.
Yeah.
You can run
I
up a
didn't say
kid's
that,
playground.
but that's
touch,
beside the point.
And they shock
You
static
missed the
electricity.
point.
Well, that's basically I think, as I understand it, this argument.
All right, let's move on there, fellas. Question for Dustin and Flatzoid. What year did you... Oh, Congo, that's also just being cheeky. Why are you sending all these cheeky super chats in? I want to read them and have fun with what you're doing, but this is not the time, All right, so, yeah, sorry, I can't read that one either, buddy. Gayest Husky says, if I had a drink for every time flat Earth or moon landing is a hoax were actually demonstrated, I would be a Mormon again. So, well, we'll release one of those.
Okay.
You guys are being real comedians in the chat. You know that? Like,
there are Mormon flat earthers.
Well, Kyle's going to be
you'll see
hanging
one
out tomorrow, and I do believe that he is a member of the LDS church there. So let's see. He can correct me on that. Maybe he does go by Mormon. I'm not sure.
LDS. He goes by LDS.
Okay. LJ says, if the moon was a stupid dusty rock, why doesn't gravity pull it down to Earth? Why don't we have real videos from Earth of asteroids hitting the moon? Over to you, Ozien
To
and
answer
Grayson.
the first one, it's because of the moon's orbital speed. All right, there's a balance between its orbital speed and gravity, so where it's moving fast enough to where it won't just get sucked in. And then what was the second question?
So yeah, gravity, and then second one, why do we not have any asteroid videos hitting the moon? Asteroids hitting the moon, videos of that.
Well, we have seen impacts on the moon. We've seen before and afters of new impact craters on the moon. So
there is one. There's a watch stunning footage captures meteorite impact on the moon.
Yep.
So I could show it. There's on NASA's website.
No screen shares. But yes, if you want to go check that out, anybody, you go ahead. We've had so many screen shares, so I gotta mitigate that. Let's see. So
it's literally all coming from like
seconds.
one guy.
20 seconds if you guys have any other thoughts. Let's move on.
Yeah, apparently according to your guys' narrative, the moon is moving away from the Earth, not towards it. So
yeah,
it will make it worse and worse.
By 3.8 centimeters per year, yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's carry on, guys. Free Palestine says rockets can't get high enough to show the mythical blue marble. Be smarter, test the pseudoscience curvature formula, and be happy on a non-rotating flat Earth. So the main part of that assertion
I'd like to
there,
respond to it. I was listening, but basically,
rockets,
it just made a claim that rockets can't do something that we've demonstrated that rockets can all tonight. So that claim can be dismissed because they didn't provide any evidence for that claim. And then they actually Ozien, do you want to take a
that's what I was going to say is like the moon landing proves rockets can go to space. So
yeah, I mean we've been doing that
second
all
law.
night. Again, the
second law proves you wrong.
We've demonstrated that you don't know what you're talking about with the second law.
The experts in physics and the laws of thermodynamics, all of them, the experts believe we went to the moon. So
the experts like Einstein and Hawking say that you can't prove movement.
But they all believe we went to the moon.
They are liars, but
So
they
that-
admit
so wait,
that you
well
can't
over 1
prove
minute,
movement.
They lie
You don't
sometimes.
understand what you just
That's all
said.
right.
Oh, when they
They
run into something they
believe-
can't do, they're like, I can't prove it.
So
Yeah, but you
I
understand
will
what you guys
not.
just said?
Your testimonial,
believe.
Flatzoid, to me is irrelevant because you're not the
Okay,
expert
let's put
on
it this way.
One
thermodynamics.
second, Flatzoid.
You
Okay,
have
let's
to
put
be
it
an
this way.
expert.
No,
Hey,
No.
what was the second part of that
Okay,
question?
All right,
let's
we're
put it
gonna let
this way.
Flatzoid
respond,
Does
guys.
natural law care what you believe?
what?
Does
You said
natural law
care
care
believe.
what you believe?
No.
Great. So I don't give a shit what they believed. It violates natural law, so
They're
their
the
belief
ones
was
that-
wrong.
They
Hold on.
understand the law better than you do. This is
Hold
the
on,
point.
Ozien,
Go
I just
ahead.
want to make it very clear that we've clearly demonstrated that Flatzoid doesn't understand the second law. He thinks that it applies to not isolated system, as it clearly does. He also doesn't understand that forces like surface tension, electromagnetism, or gravity can all contain gas pressure. So that doesn't violate the second law at all. Ryan,
Gas pressure can't have surface tension.
Ryan,
Well done. Thanks for showing ignorance.
Ryan,
Sorry,
what
go
was
ahead.
the second part of that question?
All right.
Gas pressure is unbonded. It cannot have surface tension.
All right.
So you're speaking out of your
All
ass
right, all right.
again.
I'm getting
I
asked a
didn't say
direct
gas
question.
pressure. I said
So
pressure.
there's no second part of it. They just said be smarter, test pseudoscience, curvature formula. So the main part of that was they said rockets can't get high enough. But if you had something to say, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to address this whole
Just 1 second,
curvature
Dustin.
formula.
We'll pass it to you before we're done.
Okay, I want to just address this whole curvature formula that flat earthers erroneously use all the time by pretending that the atmosphere doesn't exist. Every time that a flat earther uses a curvature formula, they never account for atmospheric effects like refraction, which you literally have to do. That's part of the globe model. They ignore the presence of the atmosphere every time they use this bogus curvature calculator. Every time. They never account for refraction.
Well, the things like the Suez Canal, which is 100 miles of straight canal and water surface unbroken, would disprove the need to use any sort of curvature.
No, it wouldn't.
However, I want to just mention something about Newton, if I may. You guys are talking about some math and how the math would work. Here's basically how it went down. Newton made up gravity. Then they realized the calculations all lead to a giant singularity where all of the universe gets squished into oblivion. So then they made up dark energy, which is basically anti-gravity. But then the calculations now showed everything will move away from each other until dark energy rips apart the very fabric of outer space. So to balance both, they made up dark matter to hold gravitons and dark energy together. It is all lies.
Nope, that's actually completely ahistorical and not how any of those developments happen in cosmology. Like he's
according to your opinion,
completely wrong about every single point that he just made.
It's literally God of the gaps argument.
Prove
dude.
it.
Literally.
Prove a Gish Gallop is false. Okay, yeah. In like a minute. Do it.
All right.
Okay,
Let's
well, like,
move on.
just saying, like, Einstein did
don't
not
make a claim
add,
you can't prove.
I'm just explaining right
Last
now.
thoughts to
Einstein
you,
did not
Grayson.
add
10 seconds.
Einstein did not add his cosmological constant to avoid some kind of singularities, right? Schwarzschild was the one that worked out like the existence of black holes after Einstein had already put in and then taken out the cosmological constant. So no, that didn't happen. The dark matter was theorized like way before dark energy was, way before the cosmological constant even was, like back in the 1800s. And then they were adding it in back when they were studying the cosmic microwave background. So no, dark energy was not added back until 1998 when they observed the accelerative expansion of the universe in type 1a supernova observations, for which they won the Nobel Prize. So your timeline is completely wrong on every single point.
Demonstrate all of that. However, I just basically want to add that all of these people have been using the same occult textbooks that go back to basically the pre-flood teachings, like the Hermetic texts of Thoth or Hermes, the so-called green.
Well, let's have a
tablets,
debate of God
which we've
is
shown
true.
that Newton was basically not only declassifying.
Next time.
He was translating, but he was also obsessed with, and that's where he pulled his cosmology. Newton was the last of their so-called mystery kids or sages or whatever they want to call in the occult world.
Yeah,
but he was not a real scientist.
None of that is true at all, except for the fact that Newton was super into alchemy. But guess what?
Opinion holds as much gravity as moon landing.
But guess what? That doesn't make him wrong about his other laws. Like, we don't say we should throw out calculus because Newton was into alchemy.
Well, your opinion holds as much weight or gravity, so to speak, pun intended, as the moon landing. So prove it.
Yeah. So good. Then I'm glad you think so highly of my opinion, because both of those hold weight. Thank you. Ryan, next question.
All righty. All right, you guys are very lively in that chat down there. It's good to see. See, there's just almost over 500 still watching and only 100 likes. I don't know if you guys got lazy thumbs or what, but I'm not impressed with that. So hit that like button if you guys are enjoying yourselves. Clearly you are. You're still hanging out. So let's carry on with the super chats and keep them flying in, everybody. Let's see. As I see what we got. Atheist Jr. says, for Flatzoid and Dustin, how do you explain lunar sunsets? I haven't heard from you in a little bit, Flatzoid, so I'll kick it over to you first.
Lunar sunsets. First you have to beg the question that there is such thing as a lunar sunset. And I don't know what the sun or the moon is, so I can't really make a claim on that. Dustin, any thoughts?
What are you, Dustin?
Well, I would like to share screen, but basically the lunar eclipse debunks any sort of sunset or lunar or eclipse type arguments. You can still have the sun out during a lunar eclipse.
One last screen share.
Something
Fine,
else
I let Grayson do it. One last one if you need to for your example.
Without like a good direct answer for what you're talking about, but in a short moment, I mean, that's basically going to rebut the argument that they're making.
This had nothing to do with the question.
repeat the question.
Okay, now I got to open up another thing. For Flatzoid and Dustin, how do you explain lunar sunsets?
What is a lunar sunset?
Like a
Let's
sunset
end
on
the
the
screen
moon.
share. Sorry, what did you say, Grayson?
A sunset on the moon, I believe, is what he's referring to as a lunar sunset.
Yes.
All of the moon
Happens once
footage,
a month.
all of the moon footage is faked. And in terms of the actual light transitions and different like the moon days, for example, like I follow the Sabbath, like the Old Testament says, and I keep the moon calendar to do so. So, I watch the moons for their phases. That phase thing has been happening in perfect synchronicity since the beginning of time. Every 7 days, you get either
All
a
right,
full moon
so
or
just
half
to be
moon
clear-
or an empty moon.
Just
For
to be
Sabbath,
clear.
for signs and
second,
seasons.
Grayson.
That's well, I'm telling you, it's God's clock. We're looking at it from
5
below,
seconds, Dustin.
looking up, and it changes light and sort of ellipsis, so to speak, depending on season. And
Why didn't
Just-
he make it match
Grayson,
the
Grayson
soul?
had something. Ozien, just 1 second. Grayson?
Just to be clear, the only thing that you just said that actually addressed the question that was asked was it's fake.
so I'm addressing where the moon and the sun are, and you're talking about like apparently the light eclipsing on the moon, which is all in the desert. That's all fake footage. So I mean, you have no actual proof we went to the moon, and we pretty much
we
make
do.
this debate. And frankly, like I got to talk about a lot of other topics that are absolutely fundamental and connected to this topic, because your entire cosmology is built on a castle of sand.
Why
It's
doesn't
a clock above us going in circles?
if God was like setting this up, why didn't he set the phases of the moon? Like 12 total phases of the moon would totally match 1 year, and it doesn't. It's off, right?
Sorry,
So-
you know
we
we're
use the
working off the
wrong-
Gregorian calendar.
Yeah, we're
No,
using the wrong
no, that's
calendar.
irrelevant. So the calendar that
That
we use
is.
is irrelevant.
Actually, the
No,
Book of
because
Enoch
we
warned us
can
about
actually-
that.
If we don't use that, the seasons change. So you actually think the seasons are supposed to change?
Book of Jubilees, and I think also
Like
the
the
Book of
month-
Enoch warned us about us changing the calendar, and then
Okay.
that would make the moon out of season, out of sync. However,
Mhm.
Oh,
the moon basically changes light based
Well,
on the
the-
date,
So you think that
like holding your hand over a flashlight.
you think that the winter should change every year, like every year by a week,
Do you know how the Hebrew calendar works?
or by or I think it's 2 weeks, right? Or no, 360 days. So you think the winter should shift 5 days every year? Is that what you
No,
think?
No, I think that based on our modern calendar, the moon and we actually have to do things like daylight savings.
No,
we
the
have to
winter
shift
doesn't
dates,
shift.
We
Winter
have to
doesn't
change
shift,
and add
though.
zodiacs and such. So if you
Alright.
actually use the original
No.
364, or was it 360? I forget.
10
Day
seconds. Thank you,
calendar.
Dustin.
It's perfect, and it syncs up perfectly.
Not perfect.
Yeah,
But
the
that
lunar-
doesn't match the number of months. It doesn't match your
It-
months. Like a month is what? How long's a month? In
It's
your
supposed to
model?
be
It does-
13 months.
on the pagan
Originally,
calendar.
It's 13
All right.
months.
No,
Question-
how long is a lunar cycle in your math?
All right, question.
Is it-
All right,
is it
Flatzoid's been trying to get a
28
word in
days or
here.
whatnot?
Ozien, 1 second. Flatzoid's trying to get a word in here, guys.
It doesn't
so
match.
Let's let
Okay.
Flatzoid in. He was saying something about
Originally,
the
it
calendar,
was-
and let's let him expand on that.
Originally, it was a lunar calendar with 13 months. The Gregorian changed that whole system, and that's why it's out of whack.
Grigori, by the way, translates as fallen angels or watchers.
Mhm.
Etymological fallacy. Do you know what that is?
I know it wasn't based on them supposedly, but I just want to mention that little coincidence.
It's an interesting
It's
point.
29 and a half days is a month, like a lunar month, right?
We have our modern seasons on our modern cosmological calendar. The Gregorian calendar are off. That's why we have things like the daylight savings time and such.
Well, that's a different reason. It's to change the number of hours in a day.
It's because it
that are
keeps it's
when
not
the-
synced.
It doesn't.
Because
That
it's
doesn't
inconsistent.
matter.
The
No,
clock
the
is off.
thing
We
that
have to keep
adjusts
fixing it because the clock is
thing
off.
that we use to adjust for the seasons is a leap year. So if we didn't have a leap year, then every 4 years the seasons
Got to
would
change
shift
the clock.
1 day. That is the do you think daylight savings times has to do with the seasons?
Exactly.
Like,
This is
Well,
daylight
no.
savings time right
it
here.
has
I'm
to do
catching up.
with it has to do with the times that businesses are
Winding
open.
the
Okay,
clock.
I just
It
want to
has
make
to do with the
something.
times that businesses are open.
Winding
It's
the clock.
ridiculous.
Oh,
I
see,
just
I
wanna
always
make
thought it was
something-
farming.
Which
like, that's
which
what I
keeps
was-
Farming,
leapfrogging forward because they're
Let
on the
me
wrong
just make
calendar.
one
Can we
point.
move
I've
on to
been
the next
lied
question?
to.
I just want to make one point really
5
quick.
seconds,
okay?
everybody.
It will take 5 seconds.
Okay.
Regardless of whatever calendar you use, any calendar you want to use, the length of a year is 365.2422 days. Whatever calendar.
2
Not
seconds.
according to the Hebrew calendar.
All right.
And it's wrong.
Their calendar.
Okay,
God's
we're
wrong.
moving on.
Is it
We're moving
day-
on.
A
No
day
mute.
is like, is it the cycle of the sun, or around the Earth, right? Or
All right.
whatever you
We're
think.
moving
All right,
on.
just
We're
hold
moving
on.
on.
We're
Dang.
gonna move on from here, guys. All right, we still got a few
Mad.
super chats to go through. I said I was gonna set 1 minute timers, and then you guys were having such fun back and forth. So I mean, I just kind of let her go
Sorry.
a little bit.
Sorry.
No, sorry.
Can I
I'm
just
sorry.
say-
Not this
Sorry, Ryan.
time.
I just gotta say.
Oh,
I was gonna say I gotta put my generator off, so I'm gonna black out for like 2-3 minutes quickly. Okay.
oh, okay. I was gonna say I thought you were gonna add to the discussion, but yeah, if you gotta drop out, that's
Yeah.
no problem at all.
Okay.
Okay, I was gonna say
I'll be
we
back now.
have to move on, but yeah. All right, we'll see you in a second. That's no problem. All right, I misread that, guys. Don't mind me. All right, I was like, nope. We're gonna move on. So let's see if we can get some here for you, Ozien and Grayson. Get these ones banged out of the park. How doesn't it violate the second law of thermodynamics?
Because the second law of thermodynamics is for an isolated system, which the Earth, Sun, Moon system is not isolated. So the second law does not apply to it. Just definitionally speaking, it doesn't apply. But when we actually look at like the atmospheric pressure as you increase in altitude, what you actually observe in real life is it gets lower and lower and lower, trending closer and closer to zero. So by the time you're getting out to deep space, it's not like you ever have an instant where you have this dense atmosphere next to a vacuum, right? It's a gradual decrease,
10 seconds.
asymptotically approaching zero pressure.
All right, Ozien, any thoughts?
I just kind of vacuum isn't considered zero pressure either. Vacuum is below a certain torr value.
That's why I said asymptotically approaching zero.
Thanks.
All right.
I would like to mention just something on the second law of thermodynamics. It's absolute proof that there is a creator and that there was a beginning, because
Nope, it's not.
nothingness did not produce high precision everything. Yet, according to the second law of thermodynamics, everything is winding down.
Good.
It
Right.
must
I don't
have
believe
been
that either.
wound up.
10 seconds.
We'd have no energy left if the universe was eternal.
I don't believe there was
Let me
ever
just
nothing.
respond to
So
that.
good.
Let me just respond to that really quick. Yeah.
Oh
so
boy, let's get down a different rabbit hole
saying, like,
entirely. You
there
guys.
are cosmological models that have periods of non-metric time. So again, nothing is necessitated. That no Big Bang, no cosmological model currently states that the universe came out of nothing. That's a total straw man, not part of the theory. So yeah, he's wrong on all fronts.
Yeah.
Everything has a beginning.
Nope.
Except God.
No.
Nope, that
Oh,
doesn't
special
follow.
pleading then.
There's actually nothing in all of
The
physics.
reality is evidence of there being a creator, because everything is winding down,
No,
according to the
there's
second law of
actually-
thermodynamics.
There's actually
No.
nothing in all of physics that necessitates that the universe had to have a beginning. There's no empirical support for that either. So you're incorrect.
Yeah.
It's the,
And
it's the
even
first
with
cause
heat death-
argument. There has
heat
to be an
death-
argument.
With
Nope,
heat
there
death,
doesn't.
there's you know
cause.
with heat death, there's still time. So when when everything winds down, time still continues into the future infinitely.
Not without.
There's no end.
Okay,
First
let's
of
not
all,
be
if
triggered.
I say X,
Let's not get
without-
triggered into
if
a
I say
Glenn
X
Miller
created
tune,
Y, I'm
guys.
assuming the existence of X to explain the existence
Just
of Y.
with-
don't
If
with
I
the
say
first
X
cause
created
argument,
X, I'm assuming the existence
All
of
right, 1
X to
second,
explain the
Ozien. We'll let
existence of
Grayson
X.
respond after.
X causes Y.
Nothing
I'll
plus
accept
nothing
that.
equals nothing. Nothing plus God is everything.
All right,
X
1 second,
causes
Ozien.
Y.
1 second. We're gonna let
Ozien,
Grayson respond
please.
this time.
Please.
Second law of
There-
thermodynamics.
There is no metaphysical argument that there needs to be a first cause. Metaphysical foundationalism is only one of several equally valid alternatives, such as infinitism or coherentism, that are viewed as being equally valid in the field of metaphysics. So you're
No.
just wrong.
There has to
True.
be a beginning for everything.
Oh,
there
This
does.
is
wait.
common
And
sense.
first law of thermodynamics says that energy and matter can neither be created or destroyed. So you ignore the first law in favor of the second law. So if you go by the first law, nothing began. It's all always existed because it can't be created or destroyed, which disputes God existing. If you want to use the laws of thermodynamics, God can't exist.
The universe has always existed is basically an
Oh.
infinite past.
We're back,
argument,
everybody.
which
Yes.
violates the second law. Of
No, it's
thermodynamics.
Agrippa's trilemma. You either have infinitism, circularism, or foundation. You have like first cause. So there's three options. They're all
There
equally.
has to be a first cause.
They're all.
Oh, there
they
doesn't.
all have
just showed why.
problems. No, they don't. There's
No,
three
multiverse
possible.
and all of your
There's
like
three
hypotheticals
possible.
here.
I didn't mention
aren't
multiverse,
logical.
did I? I mentioned
Circularity,
all of these
infinitism,
hypotheticals
and
are not
look,
logical.
look,
They're
I
not
foundation.
mentioned-
logically consistent. There has to be
They
a beginning
are.
to everything.
They, in fact, are logically consistent. No logician will agree with you.
Flat-
One
we're on the
second,
second
Dustin.
law of
You
thermodynamics.
gotta let
You can
Grayson
take it.
finish his point. He was just in the middle of a sentence
Sorry.
again there. It's all right, but it
I'm just
happens.
holding
But
flat
yeah,
on the topic.
just
They are, in fact, not logically inconsistent. Even Christian apologists like William Lane Craig will fully admit that there are logically consistent metaphysical infinitisms. And again, nothing in physics shows us that the universe had to have had a beginning. I already explained to you why the second law doesn't, because there
10
can
seconds.
totally be periods of non-metric time in your cosmological model. So there you go.
According to the laws of thermodynamics, I forget which one, but basically
About the first one.
all energy, although you can't destroy it, becomes more and more
First
unusable
law.
over time.
Can't create it
So it's
either.
all winding down to nothingness or stillness. Even if it's still there, even if it's still a rock, it's going to not be moving soon. That's basically what the
I don't
laws
think
of
you're
thermodynamics
understanding
are
what
telling
And
us.
I'm saying. I don't think you're
Which
understanding
means
my
infinite
argument at all.
time is not possible. Deep time is
No,
not
it
possible.
doesn't,
There's an
because
expiration date.
you can
No.
have non-metric time. I don't think you're understanding that.
Can I?
You can have time, and you can not measure time, or you can measure time, I guess, if that's what you mean by metric. But
No,
time is
it's
time,
not.
and it has been consistent since the beginning of
Second
time.
law of thermodynamics doesn't disprove an infinite future.
It disproves an infinite past and an infinite future.
It
No,
doesn't.
because everything
It
is
doesn't
winding down.
Definitely doesn't
Doesn't.
dispute an
There's a
infinite future.
beginning and an end.
A beginning and an end, and
You
a
can't
creator.
prove that.
Yes, you can. It's logically
Yes, you
consistent.
can.
Not.
It's the only logically consistent
you
cosmological
accept the
standpoint.
first
You
law
know,
is true.
you
You
know
accept
the
the first law is
ontological
true. Do you
you know
accept the
any of the
first law of
ontological
thermodynamics is true?
Do you know the ontological primitives?
Answer his
Yeah,
question.
logic.
Flat needs a turn too.
I exist. Reality
Flatzoid,
exists.
answer the question. Do you
Okay.
accept the first law of thermodynamics?
I accept all the laws of thermodynamics. It's a
Energy
So then
natural
you
law.
accept that energy cannot be created.
Naturally. God
Oh,
is
okay,
supernatural. Okay, now let's put it this way. Do we exist?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Are we
exist.
natural?
Reality
Wait,
exists.
are we natural?
Logic
Yes.
is true.
This
I
is why
accept
I'm
all that's
asking.
true.
Do you know what the ontological primitives are?
I exist. Reality exists.
Yeah, like
Logic
modes-
is true.
modes and all
Okay.
Math is true.
Either we were created or we created ourselves.
No,
Nope.
Yes.
no,
Which one disagrees with the first law?
It's a false premise.
no.
No,
Nothing has to
it's
be
not.
created.
Those are the only two.
No,
That's what's
there's
called the
a third
ontological
there's a
primitives. There's
third-
only two logical observations.
Nope.
There's the
False
third
dichotomy.
When, can I have
It's
30
not a false
seconds?
dichotomy.
It is.
No.
If you go to a beach and you see a beautiful built sandcastle, do you logically deduce someone made that sandcastle or did it create itself?
Because I have empirical evidence of other people making sandcastles.
So
it could have
a creator then.
it formed naturally. No, it formed naturally
we'll let
from
Ozien and then
pre-existing
you go,
material.
Dustin.
And material can't be created or destroyed in my model.
Okay, so
Right, Dustin.
can I go?
Energy.
Yeah, over to you, Dustin.
Energy and matter and heat,
Over
whatever,
to Dustin.
can't be created or destroyed. It can only change states.
Just one
Change between.
one moment. So the first cause or law of cause and effect, basically, I said it earlier, but this is a different way of putting it. If A, there are things which come into existence, such as the universe alongside time, matter, and space, and B, which means everything which comes into existence is caused to exist by something else, then C, there cannot be an infinite series of past causes. Therefore, D, there exists a first transcendent cause, which did not come into existence. In other words, the first cause always existed. Hence, E, nothingness, did not produce high precision everything. Yet, according to the second law of thermodynamics, like I said,
we can have
everything
this
is winding
debate.
down. My turn. Just a minute. And also, so F, without God, we would have to believe that pure nothingness, void, produced chaos, which then, against all the scientific laws we have, produced complexity and precision, order, everything, which is
Totally
illogical.
false.
So do I
Which
get
is
an
reverse-
hour to
All right.
unpack
Yeah, which
that?
reverse
And
of
right.
entropy.
do I get an
You
hour
guys are
to
claiming
All right,
unpack
one
that's
second,
natural.
Flat. So we gotta let Ozien
Do I
respond here.
get
We
an hour
have
to
to move
unpack that
on
and
'cause,
refute
yeah,
it
we
all
have-
and say why I disagree with every single one of your premises? Do I get an hour, Ryan? Do I got an hour to debunk his argument that you just made?
Okay, now you're just being funny. All right, let's
I'm
move.
not being funny.
All right,
Like I'm not being funny. All examples of causation we have are physical. Boom, physicalism's true. The rest
Can we
of it's
have a debate?
irrelevant.
Can we set up a debate on this subject? Because
I
I
would
would
love
love
that.
this.
I have no problem with doing that. But let's carry on, guys. Let's try to keep it
I
in
wrote a book
on
about it.
moon landing hoax. We have the whole India moon landing thing. We got 1969. There's lots of stuff to talk about right now, right here. So let's try to keep it in step, guys. Like I said, hit the like button, everybody, if you're watching right now and you haven't already. You lazy thumbed ma. Anyways, let's see. Megalyn says, it was impossible to fake the moon landing pics with the technology available at the time. As for you,
Kubrick would disagree with you.
Star Trek was doing it pretty well even then.
Y'all are a joke, man.
Tell me
In
again
fact, Star
why
Trek and Star
Kubrick
Wars
was
are
part
far
of
more
NASA.
convincing.
Tell me
Far
again
more
why
convincing.
Kubrick was part of NASA. Yeah,
I can't even understand what you're saying, Flatzoid. Repeat yourself.
Kubrick. You know who Kubrick is,
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick. Actually, my favorite director of all time.
and he's known for what exactly?
Great movies.
Face
Eyes Wide
offers.
Shut,
No,
which is basically
special
reality.
effects, special effects. And why was he part of the moon landings?
Well, he was not part of the moon landings. Actually, he was.
Yes, he was. Him and
consulting
Disney.
with NASA.
Him and
He was-
Walt Disney.
Oh, he
The
was
Flatzoid,
not.
let me
all right, you
talk,
asked a
man.
question. You got to be fair. You asked a question,
Seriously,
Grayson.
Flatzoid, you
We
can't
know
just
this.
ask me a question and then immediately start talking
All
over
right, we
my
already
answer.
solved
Sorry.
that. Go ahead, Grayson.
Okay, so Stanley Kubrick was consulting with NASA for his movie 2001: A Space Odyssey that came out before the moon landings. All right. And again,
You think-
like,
So he was practicing.
no, 2001 doesn't look similar to the footage from the moon landing. They don't look similar.
2001 is better than the moon landings.
No, it's not.
So if they were going to fake it, why would they not make it look like it was on? Or I mean, they just come on.
All right.
It looks so fake.
not
It has
rational.
to be real.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not
Elon
ra-
Musk. Oh, good quote.
Your position is not rational at all. If Stanley Kubrick was really brought in to fake the moon landing, guess what? He wouldn't have put out 2001 at all.
All right.
He was a how can I put it? He had a tendency to be very particular. He had an
Yeah,
OCD
That's
with
true.
particularity.
Okay, so
And
would you
they
do?
brought him in to fake the moon landing
No,
for a particular way.
you
That's
got no
why
evidence
it's
of
done
that.
a certain way.
So
The
camera
effects he's done in 2001 share the same similarities
No, they
of the moon
don't.
landing.
cameras with optics can't create like as detailed images as CGI does either.
Next
Like you're
question.
dealing with
Wow.
different things.
Yeah, we're
So,
talking. All right,
come
we're
on.
getting on the cameras again. So let's move on because we have discussed this, I think. So yeah, let's carry on. As you can hear, I'm about to say. As I'm trying to read through them, make sure that we got ones that are substantive. Question for Dustin and Flatzoid from Kango44. Thank you for putting in an appropriate question there, Congo. So question for Dustin and Flatzoid. How do you hold your science denialism position whilst on a video call on the internet?
It's technology. It's not science.
I
Nice
am
way
a
to
big
say you don't know
fan.
what science is.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry. Just want to say it. He doesn't know what science is. It's not science denial. Technology is not science. You get technology based on scientific evidence, but it's not science.
And also, the scientific method is something that I think we both, Flatzoid and I, both have a great appreciation of. But what they call science is basically just like what they call news, and it's all fake. In fact, fake news is less funded by governments than fake science, which is around 95%. If you want to get ahead in this world, it's evolution, it's climate change, it's the jabs from Edom, and it's all this gravity and cosmological lies. That's basically the way to get ahead in science.
Yeah, we know your
Are you-
worldview.
Are you
Let's go to
really
the next question.
like making more racist comments? Anyways,
Edom means them.
Did I miss
It's
something?
in the end time, Book of Revelations, prophecies, end times, the Gog and Magog war, how they take over our nations and basically.
Ryan, let's go to the next
All right.
question.
Well,
Get
okay.
into the
He's
JQ.
not bringing any racist remarks. I don't know why he keep bringing up racism.
I did say I
That's
would.
what they always do.
I did
They
say I
always
would
do
boot
it.
anybody if they brought up any other things. So let's just try to be careful because, like I said, I don't
The
know
Bible, yeah.
everything. But yeah, let's just carry on. LJ, marooned 1969 film had HD quality and tech. The Apollo 11 Freemasons who set up the first fake mooning scenery actually copied this movie a bit. Google it.
I'm
Oh,
yeah,
uninterested
just
in
declaration, but
these
thoughts?
stupid. Thank you for the super chat.
Do your own research.
It'll make James more money. Good. Next.
Bible says, "Test all things, hold fast that which
Yeah.
is true," or do your own research.
If you tested the flat Earth, you'd debunk it, bro. If you tested the Bible, you'd debunk it.
I did. And I was an atheist. I was a
Whoa.
lifelong atheist until I tested it.
Well, then you failed your test, buddy. I don't know what else to tell you.
We
All
fight
right.
against principalities of darkness.
Oh, you guys are all
Yeah.
lively and having fun. Let's carry on. Free Palestine said flat earthers won the debate, the globe death. So that's a compliment. Thank you for that. Free Palestine.
Peace up.
Truth Seeker said all you have is math and models. This is a quotation, sorry. Says all you have is math and models. To you, Dustin, as opposed to what else?
Bible.
Scientific evidence and the scientific method, which is demonstrable, repeatable, and debunkable.
Okay. Let's carry on, guys. I think that was short and sweet. Alex says, thoughts on Alden's atmospheric theory. You guys know
The
what that
Alden
is?
number thing is just made up. They're just trying to troll us.
Oh, okay.
There's no such thing as Alden's atmosphere theory.
Do you guys, anybody else know anything
I
about
don't know
those?
anything about that subject. I'll have to look it up.
It's a troll comment. They just say, "Do you know about Alden's number or Alden's theorem?" And it doesn't mean anything. They're just trying to see if you can get us to agree with it.
Isn't that from is that thing from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No, it's
okay.
just Vosh's fan base that does that.
Damn, okay. I was gonna say there is a thing from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that is supposed to be in that same vein. Free Palestine says a sun and moon do not rise nor set. They only appear from within the vanishing point and disappear into the vanishing point as they perform the Analema? I don't know if I said that right. Okay, I probably
Analema.
put a little too much grossness on that word. Anyways, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, so absolutely nothing in perspective provides for the bottom-up obstruction of the sun as it sets. So perspective cannot help you. Angular resolution cannot help you. There is no workable rescue device on flat Earth that is capable of explaining the sunset. Flatzoid tried to do it last time. He failed. I can easily show
Demonstrated. I demonstrated for him. It just says, nah. That's what we get, guys. Demonstrations are nah.
Okay, so because your demonstration had an object that was taller than the observer's height, it failed as a demonstration. Now, if you can repeat that demonstration with obstructing the sun with an object that is shorter than the observer's height, then I will accept it as a demonstration. But only until
sharing now. Oh my goodness, we have another share.
He's just sharing Legos, man. Why are we?
It's what you guys are talking about right here. I'm showing you the sun setting. If you want me, I'll speed it up. In fact,
we got
go up to 4x.
It's weird how we can demonstrate these things.
I do declare this is the last screen share, y'all. Come on,
guys. I'm sorry. I came prepared. I brought notes. What should I say? Damn, stole me.
Bro, none of what you've shared has been relevant at all.
This is a sunset. You're talking about sunsets, man. What are you talking about?
I don't disagree with sunsets.
Nice curve. I see a curve. Nice.
There's no curve there.
I see a rising curve. What are you talking about? It's obvious.
Where do you see a curve?
What curve?
I see a curve. Well, I didn't know I can see me with my fingers because someone's screen share.
It's a straight line right there. It just showed you.
Sorry, Ozien. At what altitude are you supposed to see
a
curve on your globe?
Screen share?
Do you
I
have
think the
fisheye
lowest
lens
we
contacts?
can see it is 30,000 feet. We can see it.
No.
Yep.
Do you have fisheye lens contacts?
Even at 220,000 feet, thanks to Felix Baumgartner, we see no curve.
This is not a flat Earth debate.
When Mythbusters tried to debunk flat Earth, they used a fisheye lens, which was the same curve at ground level as at altitude. It's the same curve at ground level. The curve at ground level proves they cheat.
Actually,
it is a flat Earth debate.
You can see
a forward curve. Nobody cares about moon landing anymore.
You can see a forward curve at 200 feet. I proved that too.
Ryan,
you showed perspective, Ozien. Literally perspective.
It's the foundation of your so-called science. It's all related. You just can't. You don't like it. That's why you were against gravity. You wanted me to not talk about gravity before. You guys are afraid of these things.
We are moving down.
I will have a debate with you on flat Earth or gravity. The thing is that that is not this debate.
You heard it, James. It is part of this debate. It's context.
That's Ryan.
Okay, my name is Ryan, but it does say James on the Zoom, so you get a pass. It's fine.
Okay,
fine.
Ryan. My apologies. I'm new to you guys, and by the way, thanks for hosting this. I appreciate everybody coming.
No, it's all good.
But yeah, no.
Let's try to get the last couple questions out here, guys. So thank you everybody in our live chat for coming and hanging out and enjoying the discussion. Definitely hit the like button. Share this out in those spaces you like to have these discussions. But in the meantime, we are going to wrap up our last 3 questions. I'm only going to read the last 3 questions. So if you got any other you super chats, just save them, everybody, because we are going to close out after these, because I do think our guests are ready to peace out. So Billy Philly says, no boot has ever been set on the moon. Why would we see the site? See, I put my parental filter on there.
You must have missed the debate.
All right.
What was the question part of that?
No boots.
Missed it.
No boot has been set on the moon, I think is what he said.
There was a second line though.
Yeah, but he was saying if no boot has been set on the moon, then why can we see the site where it has?
Oh, he said we would see
Oh,
it,
okay.
is what they were
We
saying.
would see it. You don't see it.
Because it's too far away. The angular resolution is too small
Okay.
for our
So like the
optics on
sun.
the Earth.
NASA claims to see it. But
All right,
they-
we're
they're
banging
lying.
these ones out, guys. All right,
You
so
can see,
Truth
like,
Seeker.
the overall site, sort of. Like,
All right,
Note how these same people are able to see trillions of miles away.
Flatzoid. Ozien,
Fine, you
work
gotta
with
assert yourself, man.
assert myself. Yeah, I was gonna say I'll have to bring out that rock voice. Every once in a while. The way I look at it though is the more chill I remain during debate as a host. When the day comes where somebody really irks me, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, you PO'd Ryan. You must have messed up." That's how I look at it. I hope that's how it'll go when eventually I do lose my mind. But anyways, Truth Seeker says, what specific evidence convinced you the Bible is true? You said you were an atheist. Were you ever a skeptic? For Dustin.
Can you re-ask that question? I zoned out for a second because I have satellite internet, so I missed it.
That's all right. Truth Seeker asked, what specific evidence convinced you the Bible is true? You said you were an atheist. Were you ever a skeptic?
So I was a lifelong devout anti-theist who debated pastors, and people come to my door. I would debate them. I never lost those debates. I convinced many people to abandon their faith, I'm ashamed to say. But when I went down every other rabbit hole, and I told my audience that flat earth stuff is stupid, it's a distraction, I'm focused on real issues like human trafficking and like fake elections and fake medicines and such. People dying, real issues, not this fake flat earth stuff. I didn't care about it. When I looked into it to debunk it, I accepted it within 6 hours. And then ever since then, I knew there was a creator and I was no longer an atheist. And it took me very little time to figure out which creator had a book full of prophecies and miracles, which test 100% true.
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts? Quick thoughts before we move to the last one.
Nope.
Well, I was never an atheist, but as a Bible-believing Christian most of my life, I was a glow believer. And when you actually look into the word more deeply, you see it definitely doesn't teach a heliocentric moral as it goes against God's character.
Okay. So Nominal coming in with the last question. Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions.
just really quick.
10
I've
seconds,
looked through all this evidence too, and it never was convincing to me. Maybe I'm just more of a skeptic. I don't know.
This isn't going to be really quick, is it?
No, let's try to move on.
I'm done. Sorry.
You're trying to open up another can of worms.
No.
Behave yourself, mister. I'm on to you. Nominal says, mister, I need an hour to respond. That tries to open up a can of worms. You calm down. All right. It's fine. 85% of dark matter, this is a question from Nominal. 85% of dark matter follows the scientific method. 95% of the time, it's true scientific facts. 85% of dark matter follows the scientific method 95% of the time. I don't think this is a serious question. I'm sorry. It's
That's sarcasm, guys.
It's funny though. PhD Phony did put in another question, so we'll ask that one. I did say we're going to cap it off, but if we got one more question that's serious, let's do it. Does it annoy you that flat Earth has no answers? This is a flat Earth question. What are you doing? But let's ask it anyways. So, flat Earth has no answers. Let's take 1 minute, guys.
What do you mean no answers?
I have no.
I think we've
questions
answered
left.
everything. Yeah.
All right,
I think we've answered everything they've asked.
let's
I have
ignore
no
that then.
questions left.
Let's
frankly.
ignore that then, since we have Wade Remington coming in. I'm going to remind all of you, stop it with the super chats. But I did want one that was a little, like one last one of substance before we close out for the night and do exit statements. Wade Remington, thank you so much. Why would Buzz Aldrin say on camera that we never went? You
You're
first,
joking.
Grayson.
Yeah, he was pissed off because some guy kept putting a camera right in front of his face, and he was a conspiracy theorist that he didn't want to deal with. So he gave him a sarcastic answer. I mean, you
He
do
also
the same thing.
He said it to a little girl.
he said
He
it to a
never
little girl
actually
sitting on a
said it
stage.
either.
And then he said, what was it, mic drop or something like that?
All right,
No, he
question-
said circuit breaker after he said it, like
What-
boom.
The
Question
thing
is,
is, he
drop
said
something.
this many times. He said this on
Circuit
the stage.
breaker.
He said it to a little girl. He said it to different people.
all right. Question
And now
for
they're calling him senile.
this is for Ozien and Grayson. So Ozien, you had a thought there, and we'll try to let you get that out there before we hand it back over to you.
No,
fellas.
he didn't specifically say that, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'd like to just say the final thought here because Buzz Aldrin has gone on record numerous times saying that it does happen, and you guys call him a liar. But then if he makes a joke and says sarcastically that we didn't, then all of a sudden you guys, oh, look, now he's telling the truth. He was lying all those other times, but now that he's agreeing with me sarcastically, that must be the truth. Ha ha. It's confirmation bias.
If he were a murderer, that would get him arrested, imprisoned,
Yeah, no duh.
What?
because he just basically contradicted his own testimony
That's
and
not-
he violated something. In
That's
fact,
not testimony.
what he's done is worse than murder.
You understand what testimony is?
Yes,
Testimony
it's his public statements.
No,
his
that's not
testimony.
no.
That is his testimony.
Sarcasm's not testimony, dude. You're not trying to make a truth claim. when
You're the one
being
saying it's
sarcastic.
sarcasm. He said circuit breaker, mic drop type statement. You're the one saying it's sarcasm. I don't
You're
think
the
he's
one
being
saying it's
sarcastic at all.
testimony when it wasn't in
A public
in
statement numerous times made is testimony.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
I got a question though. How are you able to divine if it's his thoughts, if it's sarcastic or not?
Oh, gee, Flatzoid, how do we know that somebody's being sarcastic when they talk to you?
He tells
I don't
you.
know.
He didn't talk that way, by the way.
He didn't. There was no sarcasm in his voice.
All right.
It was
There
on
is some in yours. Pick up on
Conan
those.
O'Brien, a comedy show. That's not testimony, dude.
All right. What we're gonna
If he's
do?
talking to a little girl, is he being sarcastic to a
I'd have
little
to see
girl?
the specific quote because you guys take this shit out of context all the time. But I say I have to leave.
Yeah, I think what we should do is we'll do 1 minute closings for each individual. So we usually keep it to one side of the panel for the closing, but I feel like let's bounce it this evening because that would be fun. So Flatzoid, do you mind going first where you went first in the intro? Thank you so much, buddy.
Awesome.
1 minute for you.
Thanks. Yeah, just by the way, I just saw the sunrise now because I woke up at 2 a.m. for this debate. So thanks, guys, for it. It was fun.
Thank you.
But note this whole debate, they have not been able to do anything to demonstrate gas pressure without containment. All they did was place things in Narnia without actually demonstrating it first to exist and say, no, you don't understand when we ask them specific questions. Note also, we have practically the whole night explained the different ventures of why it's fake, even based on why they are liars. And if you're honest about yourself, you look at this and see, yeah, maybe the moon landings are fake.
All right. So we'll hand it over to you, Grayson. 1 minute on the floor, and it's all yours.
Okay, yeah. So not only did we do all of what Flatzoid said we didn't do, but they provided no evidence. We provided, at least in my intro, and I tried to get them to address it throughout, independent third-party measurements from both amateurs and scientists alike. Again, the lunar retroreflector shut down this whole thing. They had no response to it. They just said, nuh-uh. We showed lots of examples of where gravity acts as the containment for gas pressure. There's over 5,000 exoplanets. Most of them have atmospheres that are readily observable with spectroscopy. So again, he's totally full of it. He doesn't even understand that the second law only applies to isolated systems. This is basic 101 level stuff, which he would know if he had ever taken a class in
10 seconds.
anything that he talks about. And just so you know, the links are not down below for our channels. So go ahead and Google or search on YouTube Based Theory if you want to check out any of my other debates on my channel.
All right. Thank you so much. And yeah, feel free to let everybody know where you're hanging out in your closing statement. Dustin, 1 minute on the floor.
Hey, sure. I'm Dustin Nemos, archivist at theserapeum.com and host of The Silent War at nemosnewsnetwork.com. And there's now clear evidence of NASA using numerous methods to mislead the public about astronauts being on the ISS and other space missions. air bubbles, wires, harnesses, green screens, virtual reality, strings, gravity, grabbing objects that are not even there, etc., including near drowning incidents, numerous. Space is a satanic secret society deception filmed in a Hollywood basement. The elite are ruled by a cult that worships the demigod Nephilim Anunnaki lineage of the fallen angels of Genesis 6, and they have created entire branches of false science around the Copernican revolution, the now thoroughly debunked theory that the world moves around the sun, which is why we are really here. In order to convince us the world is a globular rock cannonball corkscrewing amidst infinite void with other infinite globular rocks shotgun blasting behind it, a rock that is billions of years old, etc. You guys can see the rest at thesarapam.com.
All right, Ozien, last statement for you, closing 1 minute.
I just want to point out really quick, in his closing there, he made 3 claims that weren't brought up during the debate that could have been refuted then, but I don't have time to refute them now about bubbles and all that type of stuff. Anyway, so we provided a wealth of evidence. We explained there was historical record. To deny that we went to the moon would take, you'd have the incredulity required is astronomical. Their only explanation for why we didn't go to the moon is a misunderstanding of the second law of thermodynamics. And Satan did it. He created this great conspiracy to hide God. That's their argument. Or you can accept the historical record, the physics, the history, the documentation, and the testimony of our veterans that went to the moon. And that's it.